Oh my God. It's Saturday morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a great day. I had to get on my computer real quick. So let me do that. Y'all, I had the craziest experience in Starbucks this morning. People are wild. So funny. I can always tell now. I mean, it's getting to the point to where I can tell that people recognize me when they start acting ignorant. I've had good experiences. People that recognize me, they're like, hey, honking at me and stuff, you know. But when it comes to customer service in businesses, grocery stores, restaurants, laundromats, anywhere that I frequent, I have started to pick up on the behavior of someone that recognizes me and has a problem with anything that I say. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. Let me go down here. Good morning. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be a wonderful day. I'm so sore though, so I don't know what I'm going to be able to work out, and that's kind of upsetting me, but one way or another, I'm going to get out there and do something. How do y'all, all right. I think I type better with one hand than most people would too, but I could be tripping. You know what I mean? Hunting pack's going pretty good this morning. Oh, God, my forearms, my arms, my lats, my back, my shoulders, my chest, everything. So it is normal to have muscle soreness after the amount of working out that I've been doing. Most people that are not trying to be, well, here, let me just show you a picture. Most people that are not trying to be like a bodybuilder, you're not going to have that soreness because you're not doing progressive overload. But if you're doing progressive overload, you know that you're hitting the mark when you feel the soreness. So it just depends on the person, I guess. I was reading this morning. I was watching Mike, the doctor or whatever, talk about why people don't get sore at the gym, and he made the statement it's because they're not using more weights when they should be. If you really want to see that definition in your muscles and stuff, progressive overload is the way to go. What is this? God, people send me stuff and I don't even know what the hell it is. It's not coming up. So I was sent something from some medical practice about drug statistics in California. And I'm trying to read it, but the picture won't come up. Oh, and I was supposed to be showing you the difference. So this is a great one. Well, if it even comes up. What is going on? Reload. So it's kind of crazy because she was super fit before. Let me jump on the Wi-Fi. My phone's being crazy. Poor LA, man. So some medical professional, SMDP, I guess, I don't know. It's talking about Los Angeles, how drugs are killing people in Los Angeles. Come on. Wow. In LA, the leading cause of death of the homeless population in 2023, overdoses was the leading cause of death of homeless people in Los Angeles. Drug and alcohol overdoses continue to be the leading cause of death among Los Angeles County's homeless population in 2023, accounting for 45% of all deaths, despite increased distribution of the overdose reversal medication, naloxone. See, and that's another sad part. This upcoming generation that's getting hooked on this fentanyl, they think that Narcan is a miracle drug. Sometimes they're not going to be able to make it to you in time. So fooling with this stuff at all leads to jails, institutions, and death. I think that it's best to just stay clean. I know it's easier said than done, but oh, and speaking of which, I'm just getting so sidetracked because I've just took in so much last night and this morning. Did I get on the Wi-Fi? I got on the Wi-Fi. Progress. So as you can see, she was pretty fit before. Looks like she was a runner. You can see a little definition. But with progressive overload, she took it to a whole nother level. You can actually see she is ripped. So, yeah. And that was following a progressive overload strength training regimen. This girl, too, this is a prime example. See how fit she was before, but look at after when she added the weight and started progressive overloading. Look, her arms almost doubled. And she's natty. That's natty. So that's protein, a regimen, and dedication, honey. This woman, it changed her whole form. This shit is crazy to me. Look how it changed her whole wingspan. So before, she was pretty ripped. But this was after progressive overload when she incorporated weights. Look at how her chest her wingspan and her arms changed. It looks like she's been doing roids. She hasn't. That's natty. But crazy. So yeah, lifting weights is amazing. Progressive overload is important. Oh, so I go into Starbucks and I have to use the bathroom, and you know that they have this closed door policy now. If you don't know, let me tell you. If you are a van lifer, if you are homeless, any of these, same thing. Same thing. So, it absolutely is the same thing. You are on the streets. You are without a shelter that has running water, power, all of those things. And even if you have those things, you're still homeless. You don't have a physical address. It makes life harder. You can't join college. You can't do certain things because you don't have a physical address. And P.O. boxes don't work. They don't work for everything. You can't go to the DMV and say, yeah, this is my home address. So then you can't get a license. You get what I'm saying? If you don't have a physical address. So anyways, same thing. Van lifers are homeless. They just can't afford rent. Simple as that. So anyways, I go in there because they have this closed door policy now. And I was like, well, I'll get me a coffee, you know. You know, the last 2 or 3 times I've been there, they've been super nice. The girls that waited on me, 2 of them were actually there today. So I recognized them when I walked in. And I'm like, oh, okay, this will be fun. First of all, for those that don't know, I think that Starbucks is a horrible corporation, okay? Horrible people, the company itself. Astronomical prices for no reason. Starbucks is not only a horrible company, but they're horrible for you. Unless you were getting something without sugar, if you're getting a frappe, if you're getting one of those swirly drinks with the stuff on top, you're drinking a piece of cake. There is enough sugar in that thing to fill up probably a good portion of the cup. It's just sugar. It's so bad for people. And there are people that go through that drive-thru every single morning religiously to get their frappe. And they don't even recognize that that is the reason that they are gaining weight. So anyways, I digress on that. I don't like Starbucks. Needed to go in there to use the bathroom because God knows Wawa ain't got no damn coffee. So I get in there because they have a closed door policy. Typically, I would go through the drive-thru if I'm going to even get anything at all. I usually do like an Americano, which is like $3-4, okay? Or a shot of espresso, which is like $2. So anyways, or I'll just get water because I have coffee. So I'm like, screw it. I really have to use the bathroom. Like, I literally had to use the bathroom so bad. So I run in there. And I get to the counter, and I noticed some of the girls working in there that are super nice when I've been through the drive-thru. So I'm thinking, oh, it'll be fun. So I walk up. I got this smile on my face. I'm like, good morning. And this sorry excuse of a worker comes up to me with an attitude. What do you want? I immediately like dropped my smile and like, I was like, okay, maybe she didn't mean it like that. And I'm like, well, I'm interested in blah, 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 blah. I said, can y'all make that hot? And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay. She's like, do you want this oat lavender milk, squirrel nut juice? And I'm like, no, I was kind of wanting this. And she's like being rude and quick. Same shit, different day. And, if you're about to drop $5 on a cup of coffee, which is a lot. That's a lot of money. For a cup of coffee. A cup of coffee ranges like $1 to $2. I can't believe that we're at $10 cups of coffee. But Starbucks has them. So anyways, I typically will tip $1. I did not this time. I'm sick of giving my money to people who are disrespectful to me when it's their job to wait on me. If you recognize me from the internet and you want to believe the government, then go ahead, honey. That makes you dumb like the government. Now, could it have been the bonnet? I assessed this in my head because she looked like she was seething at me. Okay. She's like, okay. So I'm like, is it the bonnet? But then I just happened to look around the restaurant, the Starbucks, and I noticed that there is a man with ass-length hair with no bonnet on, hair fizzing out, and he's making coffee. I also noticed that there's bitches with colors in their hair. So it's okay for you to dye your hair pink, but Lord forbid if I walk in this bitch with a bonnet that's pink. I'm sorry. You have 50 different earrings hanging out of your freaking face right now, and you care about my bonnet with your blue hair? It's not about the bonnet. It's about being recognized. It's about people believing in a lie. And that's fine. I have these instances that happen almost on a daily basis. All I do at this point is laugh, refuse to tip, and write a review. I don't care if I was accused of murdering my parents cold-blooded. Oh, wait a second. Then you'd have my back. Then you'd be like, free the Mendez brothers. Free the Clark sister. Anyways, I digress. So I normally have a good experience at this location, even though they treat van lifers like crap. This is that location I told you guys that every time I would pull up and try to use their Wi-Fi, the cops would show up. Imagine showing up, spending $5 on an expensive ass cup of coffee, and then being harassed by the cops because Starbucks doesn't like van lifers. It's fine. And this is what I stated. I said, I've learned they don't like people in their cars for even 15 minutes on the Wi-Fi, so I don't use it. I get my coffee and I go. This morning I had to use the restroom, so I went in to buy the coffee. The girl who took my order rushed me along and would not let me finish my questions. She was extremely rude and condescending. It's ironic because I came through just a week ago and a very nice lady who wears glasses and had on a black shirt today was not only respectful, but extremely nice and helpful. I can always feel when someone recognizes me, they start acting ignorant and immature. To the girl that took my order, if you don't want to be respectful to customers, please quit so I can have your job. Thank you. I can start tomorrow. Bright and early, 4 a.m., what time y'all open? I'll come in an hour early just to do some cleaning. Let me know any other employee that would do that for you. People have lost their work ethic, and I'm sick of being treated like this. I don't care if you think you know me, miss. You don't know shit about me. I don't care if you watch every single piece of my content. You will never understand or fathom what is in my soul because you are evil. Evil. So, going back to the news, because I saw some crazy stuff last night, y'all. First of all, where's my photos? Y'all know I got to screenshot it because I don't know how to do technology. I was reading more about the Bible this morning too, so I got to talk about that. So I want to talk about this adult star, Emily Willis. This girl goes to rehab, y'all. I've been telling y'all for, people say, oh, you're giving bad medical advice. No, I'm trying to save you from being in a worse predicament. I'm not saying all rehabs are bad. Rehabs are a wonderful thing for addiction services. Rehabs are just not where medicine should be when it comes to services, okay? So there's this girl named Emily, and she is completely brain dead. She went to rehab for being addicted to, I think, ketamine. Let me triple check that. Good morning, Lewis. Me too. Good morning, Xavier and Flutterby. Joe Mama, something like that. Absolutely. Good morning. Hey, Slayer. Good morning. Good morning. So I'm trying to figure out. So she was, and first of all, beautiful girl. I mean, it's just so sad because this is a horror story. Imagine that the economy is so bad, you got to go sell your body on the internet to make a living. That's why they get into it, money. Let's be honest. Porn stars get into it for money. You think they get into it to get laid? You think women, porn stars, get into porn to get laid? I'm about to break your heart. I'm about to just crush it, honey. It's money. It's money. Money. The root of all evil. That is why women get into the porn industry. Now, men, I think they get into it for a multitude of reasons. They want to bang girls. They want to make money. And there's a lot of notoriety that comes with being a male porn star, such as like Jeremy, oh God, what was his name? Help me out, y'all. Good morning, Kevin. JK, what was Ron Jeremy? Okay, so if you don't know who Ron Jeremy was, he was a huge porn star, I want to say in the 80s, maybe even as far back as the 70s. Not attractive. He looks like the father on Matilda. You ever seen Matilda? Danny DeVito. He looks like Danny DeVito. He does. Tell me that Ron Jeremy does not look like Danny DeVito. So does. So anyways, there's a lot of notoriety that comes behind it because of people like Ron Jeremy. So I think men get into it for different reasons than women. But this was her. She's 25 years old. I mean, she's gorgeous, okay? Absolutely gorgeous. Her name was Emily Willis. Her name is Emily Willis. She is still alive, but she is in a complete vegetative state. She is essentially brain dead, and they're not expecting her to make it. Now, she did not get to this state from porn. I mean, it aided in what happened to her, absolutely. She went into cardiac arrest and then fell into a coma at rehab. And I just got to say that this was an expensive rehab. This is an adult film star who won multiple awards at the AVN Awards. She was Performer of the Year in 2021. This girl was a star I mean, she's a star, but like, I say that because it's such a grotesque line of work that it's repulsive. And so it's sad that, she was even in this. So it looks like something happened at the rehab. She checks herself into rehab. She calls all of her upcoming dates off. She actually canceled everything on her schedule. She goes to rehab. It was said that she was addicted to ketamine, and we don't have a clear picture. That's what I'm trying to find, and my internet is not working. What's new? So it looks like she has regained consciousness, but she is unable to function. So she is in a complete vegetative state. She can't talk. She can't move her limbs. She's bedridden. She can only open her eyes and follow objects with her eyes and express some emotion with her face. Her family has since moved her to a celebrity rehab where she's received treatment for addiction. Hold on one second. This thing won't work. Yeah, Emily checked into the Summit Malibu Rehab on January 27th, hoping to overcome her ketamine addiction and to reclaim control over her life. However, her life took a devastating turn on February 4th. Her family has since filed a lawsuit against the facility, accusing them of neglect in the days leading up to Emily's cardiac arrest. And once again, this was an expensive rehab that this happened to her at. We're talking $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for a 28 to 90 day stay. This is top tier rehab addiction treatment services. This is as good as it gets. And this girl is now a vegetable. Like, forever. I don't understand how one would go into cardiac arrest from ketamine, but I've been telling y'all, what have I been saying? That addiction services are not healthy. There's a lot of medical malpractice going on. There's a lot that we don't know about these new drugs, the long-term effects of coming off of them, the detox symptoms of coming off of them. And I've told y'all that coming off of heroin can kill people, and people call me crazy. Well, apparently coming off of ketamine can kill you too now. Doctors don't want to admit what I'm saying is true because it's not the profitable thing. It would be more expensive to treat patients. So Ron was fat. He was something else, that's for sure. So it looks like they're not releasing anatomic brain injury. Emily is now permanently disabled due to an anatomic brain injury, a consequence of being deprived oxygen for an extended period of time following a medical mishap. Hold on one second. I just need to think because I've never took ketamine. detoxing off of ketamine, side effects. What would make her go into cardiac arrest and stop breathing? So she didn't have oxygen flowing to her brain. This is all a bunch of rehabs. This is what I'm saying. You can't even get information. It's all advertisements. What are the long-term side effects of coming off of ketamine? Here's what to expect from ketamine withdrawal. Y'all, she was so pretty. This is so sad. Everybody, they said she had tons of friends, lots of family. The duration of her unconscious state before discovery remains uncertain. I'm sorry, what? We have doctors, we have clinical psychologists, we have therapists, we have people that are educated in the building of this rehab. Nothing should remain uncertain when we have this many medical professionals in a rehab. Looks like a nurse dialed 911 promptly. It doesn't sound like it. She's a vegetable. It doesn't sound like it. She lost oxygen to her brain. I mean, y'all, these people are wild. The way that they write stuff, you really got to read through the BS. You know, that's to distance themselves. That's the rehab distancing themselves from the legalities of what they've done. They're trying to, you know. So it looks like ketamine is a dissociative drug used in small doses by medical practitioners to sedate patients and assist with pain relief. Unfortunately, misuse of the drug can swiftly develop into ketamine addiction, with users reliant on the substance they feel to need just to function every day. So it's similar to heroin, but I want to know the detox. So it's a physical dependency is what it's saying. You have to keep using more and more to feel like you did yesterday or the day before. You keep having to up your dosage in order to feel good, to be able to live your life, to be able to function. You have to keep raising the dose. And it sounds like Emily was doing this. Emily Willis. I want to know the long-term side effects. I've got it like 50 pics. Ketamine detox is a process that allows users to regain the coherence and motivation that they often feel entirely consumed by their dependency. Ketamine does not require medical detox. Can we stop with this shit? Everybody is different. This is the stuff that gets people killed and on life support in a vegetative state. How long has ketamine been around? How long did it take for us to realize that Xanax was a horrible drug and it was killing people? 35 years. 35 years. How long has ketamine been on the market for personal use? Anything that is physically addictive, if you don't have it and you're having to take more and more to take it, there is almost a certain chance that you are going to have physical withdrawals coming off of that drug. And if it is something that is a suppressant like opiates, like ketamine, that means you're not going to be able to drink or eat water. You're going to be throwing up. You're going to be shitting your brains out. And in that case, you need medical intervention because every patient is different. If you're anything like me, if you're under tremendous stress, you're going to go 3 weeks without eating a meal. You can die. And it sounds like she was on 6 to 7 grams of ketamine every day from what I read last night. That is a huge dose. Huge. She would have been having some profound withdrawals after being on it for as long as she was. And I'm glad that she went to rehab. At no point should she been, this is unacceptable. I hope her parents win a lawsuit because I don't know what happened in that rehab, but I'd be willing to bet it had something to do with, I don't know. Listen, I just know how pretty girls like that work in the sex industry get treated in places like that. So, if it's anything like my experiences, not only was she not getting the medical necessary treatment, but they were probably ignoring her and treating her like crap, in my experience. Sex workers that go to rehabs are treated like crap. Any pretty girl. So it looks like ketamine was first synthesized in 1962. Lovely, more of our government doing dirt over here. It was also used for testing on human prisoners in 1964. So it looks like it's a popular party drug. Now ketamine infusion therapy is a breakthrough treatment in the mental health community. You sure about that? I knew a lot of people that come off of heroin and switch to ketamine, and now they got a ketamine problem. So I just think that... But the reason for that is because of the reward process in the brain, like I was talking about a few weeks ago with marijuana. So that reward process center has to be rewired, and something else has to replace it. Now, whether that's diet and exercise, whether that's church, whether that's school, whether that's, whatever, that reward system has to be replaced with something else. And what we see a lot is people using ketamine instead of opiates, and they get strung out on ketamine. So I don't think that that's a smooth move. It's the same thing as, a heroin addict switching to methadone. It's not good. It's not beneficial longevity for the patient. So it looks like they first started using ketamine for medical use in 1970. It was first used on American soldiers during the Vietnam War for battlefield surgery. It was a highly effective anesthetic, but it soon began to be illicitly abused. Beginning on the West Coast in the early 1970s, through the 1970s, psychiatric and academic research of the effects of ketamine began. Why? You know what's a much better option for people in rehab than ketamine? Marijuana. It's not addictive. Some people it is. But you know what I mean? It's not physically addicting. I guess ketamine's physically addicting, so of course doctors want to treat with that. They're going to make money. Yeah, I don't think I've ever tried K. I've tried... I have. I accidentally tried ketamine one time. I thought it was heroin, and I got stuck, and I've talked about this before. It was terrifying. I tried it once. Somebody sold me bullcrap heroin. Whatever floats your boat. I'm going to quit cigarettes soon, too. So it looks like ketamine started being used as a party drug in the 1980s. It's sold in capsules, powders, tablets, solutions, and injectable forms. So finally, in 1999, the United States made ketamine a federally controlled substance in an attempt to stop its illicit use. I just think when a drug's negative side effects outweighs the positive, that it's not a good drug. Anything that is physically addictive is not a good drug. If you have to have something every day to be able to brush your teeth, wash your face, feed your kids, drive your kids to school, if you have to have something that makes you do that every day, it's not a good drug. That's addiction. That's a problem. So it looks like in the 2000s, medical professionals began noticing and studying ketamine's ability to rapidly alleviate depression and suicidal thoughts. So we're just going to overlook the fact that it's physically addicting, and when patients don't have it, they get sick and they can't function. And, this ain't telling me none of the withdrawal symptoms. It just told me the history and how great the drug was. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So it looks like when mentioning ketamine withdrawal, we are referring to the physical and psychological symptoms that occur when a user abruptly stops and cuts back on their ketamine use. A withdrawal from ketamine is likely to induce a number of symptoms: agitation, fatigue, confusion, loss of motor skills, nausea, paranoia, hallucinations, stomach cramps, and you can best believe that it's 10 times worse than that. I want to see if anything is respiratory. How could ketamine detox make you go into cardiac arrest? There has to be a medical explanation. Yeah, ketamine-induced vascular something. Hold on. I think so, Eric. I think that is what Matthew Perry died from. I could be wrong, but ketamine-induced ventricular structural sympathetic and electropsychological remodeling. What in the heck? Sorry. What did I say? It takes 30 years. We started in the 70s, so it's been quite more than that. Listen to this. Growing evidence suggests that long-term abuse of ketamine does harm to the heart and increases the risk of sudden death. The present study was performed to explore the cardiotoxicity of ketamine and the protective efforts of metoprolol. Hold on one second. Y'all, I'm not good at big words. Hold on. What is ventral myocardial apoptosis? Hippopotamus? Like, it's a heart problem that comes from ketamine. Hip hop. Hip hop anonymous? Where'd it go? Myocard. This is why I work out and don't do drugs, because this stuff scares me, y'all. I've had people that said, oh, why don't you use ketamine? This is why. There it is. It's a type of cell death that occurs in the heart muscle. It's a tightly regulated process that can contribute to heart failure and other cardiovascular diseases. Here's the thing, though. She was detoxing off the ketamine. Was coming off of that ketamine enough to send her body into like some form of cardiac arrest, shock. Detoxing from ketamine is rarely dangerous. You sure about that? You sure about that? And this is my point. You know, treating ketamine patients, I guess, isn't beneficial for them. You know, it doesn't bring in enough money, so they don't want them. When we are talking about drugs that can cause severe heart problems, I think that it would be a good idea to put these patients in inpatient care to monitor them until they come out of their detox state. I don't know why anyone who would want to go to rehab would be advised not to. It's crazy. Got an itchy throat. So yeah, she went to rehab and never came home. And it's really sad because these are medical professionals, and if they don't know what they're doing, then who does? Who does? Y'all, I saw this 12-year-old that drowned in this hotel pool, and this cop goes running down this damn hotel walkway to save this youngin'. This boy was 12 years old, and he weighed every bit of probably 150 to 175 pounds. And I said, that's a 12-year-old kid that weighs every bit of 150-something pounds. He probably could not support his own body weight in the water. For God's sakes, shaking my head. Stop abusing your children through food. It's ridiculous. It's not, common sense is not that common anymore, A, your son didn't know how to swim. B, he weighs more than I do as a grown 30-something-year-old woman at 12. What did you think was going to happen, Susan? You thought he was just going to float. You thought all that was going to float. I mean, it's really sad. And the kid almost died. He lived. But it's like, first of all, it's one of those moments. It's like, where's your parents? And then you get him out the water and you physically see him. And you're like, oh my God, what have your parents done to you? We're going to get there one day. One of these days, overfeeding your child and turning them into a death trap will be considered child abuse. In my eyes, it already is. I mean, because you're harming him. You're making his life harder to live. Teaching him bad eating habits is going to kill him. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. I don't even know how they got that boy out the water. He was so big. And I said, 12. There ain't no way. It's Inside Edition if you want to go watch it. But so this douche canoosh is in jail right now. He lured a teenage girl off the internet, killed her, dismembered her, and threw her body in a trash can. I don't know what is going on out here, but this is literally the fifth? Oh no, this is the fifth suspect, the third case this week where I've talked about young girls being lured off the internet and being kidnapped. I mean, this guy. Look at that, like, ugh. Why is this not coming up? My internet ain't working, y'all. It never does. So this is out of St. Petersburg. I guess my darn computer don't work, y'all. This is why I don't get on it, because it don't work. So it looks like he found her on social media. St. Pete police say that Stephen Gress, 35, is charged with her murder. This child, how old was she? A teenage girl who had been reported missing out of St. Petersburg was killed by a man who lured her through social media. It looks like there was a witness that came forward with information about a possible kidnapping and homicide involving this missing teen. During the investigation, detectives reportedly learned that 16-year-old Miranda Corset was contacted by Stephen Gress, 35, on social media. So it looks like Stephen went to go pick Miranda up from her home and then took her to his duplex. So after he initially met her and picked her up, first of all, she was underage. He was 35. He took her back home, and then the next day he come back to get her and returned to his home. It looks like there was some kind of dispute over missing jewelry. So he done damn brought this teenager up in his home. She done damn stole some jewelry, it sounds like, allegedly. And it looks like she was beaten, tortured, because he could not find his piece of jewelry. I don't know who I believe. I don't know if the kid took it. I don't know if I believe that this is his just excuse. I don't know. But, wow, he had a whole wife. What? Gress, along with his domestic partner, Michelle Brands, put the 16-year-old's body in the car and drove her to a house on some drive in Largo. Yeah, and then the cops pull up at this house and find out that through crime scene investigation tools, they found out that she was dismembered. This poor child, who was only 16 years old, was dismembered. And by the way, she already had a child. Where is this child's parents? So the 16-year-old had a child. This 35-year-old man who has a partner, a wife, essentially, starts messing with this 16-year-old girl. Police confirmed Friday evening that Miranda had a 11-month-old baby. He's now charged with first-degree murder. Oh, yeah, and that woman would have done whatever he wanted her to because she was mad at that girl she would have been raging at that girl because her man was messing with him. Because that girl was messing with her man. Do you get it? I mean, look at that look, for one. Look at that. That is evil. That girl is possessed. I mean, it's just crazy to me because this girl was 16 and she clearly was hanging out with him. These girls nowadays are so different, y'all. If some 35-year-old man would have asked me to hang out when I was her age, I would have freaking, like, cried. I would have been so terrified. Like, what is going on with these children? She already had an 11-month-old baby, which means that she would have been pregnant at, like, 15. Whose kid was that? Draymond. Oh, they connected on a dating app. I didn't think 16-year-old girls could be on adult dating apps, but I guess, we're living in the new world. She was dismembered and dumped into a dumpster. Yep, that's usually how it goes. She lived with her grandma and she was being homeschooled because both of her parents were deceased. I know, it is very sad. Wild. Absolutely wild. Sorry, I was looking for something else. Oh, Lord. No. Please come up. Y'all. Come on, show me a picture. That looks like a man. Y'all, I saw this picture. Don't that look like a man? That is a stripper. Sounds about right. That's what they look like nowadays. Yeah, so I said, I saw that, and that's what caught me was that mugshot. Is that... Anyway, she killed 3 of her customers at a strip club. Yeah. Cold-blooded woman doing whatever was necessary to get money, including murder. That's how police described Felicia Blakely, who pled guilty to killing 3 men and robbing several fast food spots in Atlanta. You sure her name's Felicia? Are you sure her name's Felicia? Because I just feel like it should have been like Frederick. I can't. I'm going to stop. It does look like a man. That's what got me. I was looking for something else, and that picture just... I said, that ain't no stripper. I don't see it. I'm not seeing it. Between the Adam's apple and that hairline, I don't see it. That's crazy. Anyways, Lord. Y'all, people were trying to tell me, listen, I can't help if other people are non-believers. That has nothing to do with me. But what you're not going to do is come and be a non-believer and say something that doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? On my channel. I will block you so quick. So I posted that video of, I would say it's probably about... You can probably see like 1/3 of what I actually saw, if even that. Probably like maybe 1/4 of what I actually saw in the sky. This formed right in front of my eyes. And I've said that continuously since it happened. So this was not something from damn SpaceX, okay? First of all, this was at almost 8 o'clock at night. SpaceX happened at 5 o'clock, 5:30, okay? I'm not even anywhere near South Florida. I'm in North Florida, closer to Georgia, actually. I'm on the line. And this formed right in front of my face. And, you know, it's so crazy that God would let me see something like that on the same day that damn rockets are exploding in the sky. But, you know, this is how God works. He's kind of, he's got jokes. I'm sure there's some disciples in the Bible that would say the same thing, okay? So, he's got jokes. It just so happens that it was on the same day that the rocket exploded in the sky. But this was not that. This formed right in front of me, and I've said it like a dozen times. And actually, I found a video of what it looks like. Very similar. I'll show you. You know, the crazy thing is that when this woman caught this on camera, she actually spoke to it, and it actually responded in movement to God's name. I'm not joking. I swear to God. I don't even know how I found it earlier. I was going to post it, but I was like, no, there's too many non-believers. I saw this guy this morning go into a grocery store, and he said, hey, do you know the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ? And people were going, I'm a Satanist. He walked up to like 20 people before he met somebody that would acknowledge Christ.
This thing actually communicates. A lady in New Jersey has reported.
It was very similar to that. It's exactly what I described. Not only that, though, this thing, like I said, it was like the light shot out at me, and it was almost like tentacles of lights. And this woman actually talks to Jesus, and she says, this is a real video, by the way, you can go find it. She talks to Jesus, and she says, Jesus loves me, and the orb starts moving.
Hear me. Jesus loves me.
Hold on.
Start to react.
Can you talk to me? Can you hear me? Jesus loves me.
Watch this. Look at that thing react.
Oh, you know Jesus. You know Jesus.
So I've seen this video about 50 times this morning. I've watched it from different creators. I've watched other commentators comment on it, stuff like that. That's still not as magnificent as what I saw. And that doesn't even come close to what I saw. Doesn't even come close. But it was very similar. That's more similar than shit falling out of the sky. It really just like, you know, I guess when I saw it, I didn't realize what I was looking at. And then it's kind of crazy that God would let me see something like that on the same day that rockets are exploding. This was not a rocket piece. This was not shrapnel. This was not anything like that. You can physically see the orb in the sky when whatever that was starts to disappear. It's crazy. And I don't even like to call it an orb, because if it's anything, it's an angel. It wouldn't be an orb. It would be an angel. An angel of fire, to be specific. Let's see what the weather's going to do today, because I need to get outside. I need to get outside. And you know, the crazy thing is when I was researching the angels from the Bibles this morning, I learned a lot about my element. I'm a fire element, and I do believe that when we're born dictates our personality traits, the way we feel about things, the way that we behave. But there's a fine line with that, because God strictly prohibits any use of the occult, and astrology is considered the occult. So astrology is considered the devil's work. So, or tarot cards or anything like that. But when I was learning about the angels in the Bible this morning, I was learning that my sign, the fact that I'm a fire when I was born, has a lot to do with God's word, which is pretty wild. But also I was, hold on one second. I was doing some research trying to, y'all know how I believe in evolution. And I believe in the Bible. I wholeheartedly believe in the Bible. That is the whole purpose for us on earth. The only purpose for us is God's word. So, to live his word. So, I believe in evolution, though, because I believe in the science. I believe in the bones. I've seen the bones. I've studied the bones. So, I was like, you know, how does this timeline work? I still don't know. But something that I found interesting was that Adam and Eve were 15 feet tall. Now, if you know anything about bones, let me tell you, they actually have human remains that were that big. They actually found them many years ago, and they were giant skeletal remains. I'll tell you more about them. Where did the giant skeleton remains come from? 15 feet. Hold on one second. There we go. Wheels in the sky. Wheels in the sky. Eyes in the sky. Now AI is trying to say that these bones don't exist. Let me go to Wiki, because there's actual pictures of these bones. Anyways, in the Bible it says that Adam and Eve were around 15 feet tall. And here's the thing. Something else that blew my mind this morning is the Vatican, the Catholic Church. Y'all know that they wrote the King James Version Bible in 1604, right? The Bible that we have today is not, listen, the Bible that we have today, the King James Version, the Catholic Church, how can I say this? They tweaked it. They tweaked it. So we actually don't know what's all of God's words, because the Catholic Church created the King James Bible. Like, they tweaked it. They put what they wanted in and took what they wanted out from the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I'm not okay with that. But another fact is, I don't know if y'all know this. Here's another thing. If these bones existed like they originally said that they did, and now they're saying, oh, it was a hoax. If they originally, like, this dude is getting on my fucking nerves. Like, Jesus, go the fuck on. Fucking weirdo. Like, it's just, like, so annoying. He's been out there banging around for 20 minutes. Get the fuck up the road, bro. You see I'm trying to fucking work and you're like being loud intentionally. Always the usual suspects. So, the Vatican would have these bones if they existed. And back in the early, 1800s, 1700s, they existed. Isn't that weird? Ain't that weird that they existed and then all of a sudden they disappeared and it was all a hoax? I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that. Yeah, I feel some type of way about that King James Version Bible, y'all. I really do. I said, what do you mean the church wrote the Bible? I said, you lying. Oh, let me tell you what Google says about Adam and Eve. Look at this. Listen to what Google says. When I was talking, I was trying to find more scientific research on Adam and Eve, okay? Listen to this. The story of Adam and Eve is a creation of myth. This is what Google says. First line. The story of Adam and Eve is a creation of myth in the Bible. I'm sorry, do what? It's not considered a scientific account of human origins. I'm gonna smoke on that one. And then I was like, well, if these bones do exist, why would the Vatican want them? Why would they want to put them in their vault? And the reason would be is because those bones would actually prove evolution and somewhat disapprove, it would disapprove Christianity if those bones existed, because God says that he created the dinosaurs and humans, us, okay, Adam and Eve, and he says that he did them coinciding together. Well, science does not concur with that. We know the dinosaurs came way before us. Y'all, I'm thinking about changing my major and moving to Florida. I am. I'm thinking of going to Bible school. I really am. Y'all remember I talked to that church not too long ago and they said that I could pretty much go for free. And I can do it all online. And I can be wherever I want. I need to know more. Like, I really need to know more. I think that, two things can be true at one time. I believe in evolution because of the bones, because of science. I found God and then I found science. And I was thinking about this last night. This is why I had problems as a child. I remember asking people in church where the dinosaurs come from. And I remember where I was. I remember what I was wearing. I remember how old I was. I remember every minute detail. They told me not to ask those questions. And this is why I was labeled a problem child. I remember that. I was punished for that. For asking, well, where did the dinosaurs come from? Were we here first? Or how did this happen? And why doesn't God talk about dinosaurs in the Bible? And he actually does somewhat. There's references. There's biblical references to things that could be dinosaurs. And he actually says that we coincided together. So, this is why I was labeled a problem child. I remember that. I was maybe 7 or 8. I was at my grandmother's and family's church, and I asked about dinosaurs, and I was told to not ask questions like that. That that science was a lie. That was the big one. That the school was misinformed. Well, then why the fuck would you send me there? Like, I don't understand. And that creates distrust in a child, because now that child is thinking that the school is a liar, and now they're not believing anything the school says, or vice versa with the church. They're thinking that the church is a liar. It is an absolute miracle that I did not turn away from God at some point in my life. It really breaks my heart for little Brooke, because I really just feel like the church did not, I feel like the church is so far behind, I feel like the church is really far behind, and I feel like there is a logical explanation as to where these bones come from, how we evolved. I feel like there's a logical explanation. If we came together, we could answer more questions that we all have about humanity and our existence. And I feel like when science pushes out the church and then the church pushes out science, it's just two brick walls and nobody's making any progress. There is no denying the evidence, and the evidence is the bones. We have whole cities that were created all over this earth that they're still digging up. Their archaeologists are still out there, paleontologists, they're still out there digging up bones. There's so much that we do not know about humanity, and I believe that two things are true at once. And I believe that those skeletal remains, the 15-foot bones that they claim they found many, many years ago, it is my belief that the Vatican probably has them, because it would disprove Christianity. You know, those bones are science for evolution. The church does not want people thinking that evolution is right, because that kills their business. Although, I mean, you know, if they were smart, they'd be like, see, here's Adam and Eve. They were 15 feet tall. This proves that God created. But, you know, that would be acknowledging that science is somewhat correct in their theories and assessments of where these bones came from. And the Vatican will never do that. And let me tell you about these. We all know the Catholic Church is corrupt, right? Listen, I'm not saying they all bad. I love me some Catholics. The main religion in Mexico is Catholicism. We have a good portion of people here, it's Catholicism. The UK, Catholicism. Like, I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is when we're talking about the Catholic Church, it's almost the same concept of government. How much power do they have, and why do they have this much power, and should they have this much power? For hundreds of years, the Vatican, the Catholic Church has, you know, ruled, and they have this huge archive. If you don't know, let me see if I can find it. How big is that Vatican archive? You can't even go down there, honey. You know that movie with Tom Hanks, wasn't it Tom Hanks, where he was running around the Vatican trying to save the world? What was that, Decoded or something, the code? Anyways, the Da Vinci Code. So, the Vatican is the largest church in the world. They keep their own archives. It is impossible to get into the Vatican. You would have to be some world-renowned paleontologist, archaeologist to maybe even get considered to even see their archives. I mean, there's so much red tape. Me and you will never see the inside of the Vatican. And it's called the Vatican Apostolic Archive. It's estimated to contain 53 miles of shelving. Jesus Christ, y'all. 53 miles of shelving. And that is all documents. They keep everything. Bones, pictures. They probably got stuff we didn't even know existed. Stuff that we didn't even know existed is in the Vatican. I love how they call it the world's largest collection of Catholic documents, books, and doctrine. There's rumors that they got all kinds of stuff, even extraterrestrial beings. We don't know what's down there. We don't. Ain't nobody ever, you know, been down there. We don't know what's down there. It's like Area 41? Well, that's a new troll. Anyways, you cannot go into their secret archives. Let me be specific. I thought we were all adults here. I didn't know I needed to be specific. You can go see their museums. You can go see parts of the Vatican. But the private stuff is underneath the basement, the 53 miles of shelving, you will not be able to see. And actually, when you get there, tell them I sent you. And when they turn you away, please call me crying so I can say I told you so. I would love to see somebody walk up and be like, yeah, I want to go downstairs. They would laugh at you. Listen to what I'm telling you. They would laugh you in the face till you cried. They are not going to let you in the lower levels of the Vatican ever. There is stuff down there that we don't, once again, that we didn't even know existed. In my opinion, the reason that the church is so private about this is they probably have tons tons and tons of secrets. And there's probably evidence to either refute or confirm Christianity. And, you know, with the rewriting of the King James Bible, I'm on a new search of finding a real Bible, because it's like, this ain't the Bible. Where is the Bible? If it's got KVJ on it, that ain't the Bible. That ain't the Bible. I don't know about that. I don't think so. Hold on. For instance, when did the Vatican rewrite the Bible? 1604. Ain't it interesting how I can ask it a question like that and it just spits out an answer? But if they didn't rewrite it, then why would Google say that they did? I mean, they lie about everything else. I think that, oh, they've changed it several times. They changed, so they initially wrote the Bible in 1604. Then they revised it in 66 and 2007. And matter of fact, there's 12 missing books from the Bible that were removed in 1684 by the direction of Pope Innocent the 5th or 6th. There is a huge chunk of the Bible missing. 12 books to be exact, and probably more than that. The Catholic Church wrote the King James Version Bible. Well, he did, you know what I mean. And there we go right there. 12 of the books are missing. There's no telling what the Catholic Church took out, put back in, rewrote. Let's not forget it was written in Hebrew. It's been manipulated so much over time, there's no telling what the actual Bible said, what the disciples actually wrote. I would rather see that and learn Hebrew than trust Pope Innocent. Anybody with the name Innocent, I can assure you, is not innocent. Precious ain't precious. Diamond ain't no diamond. She ain't even a damn diamond in the rough. Tell me I'm wrong. Protestants. I want to know the original. You know, and that, you know, I don't. I get, you know, somebody said to me, the Bible's not the Bible. And I'm like, what are they talking about? And this is what led to this. They were right. You know, even in a small sense, where's the other 12 books, Mr. Innocent? I'll tell you where they are. They're at the bottom of the Vatican. They're at the very basement of the Vatican. Taught you to love your government. Boom, boom, boom. Now we're talking. Thank you, Ballot Junkie. Thank you. Good point. So going back to Animal Farm, how much of this is planned? You know what I mean? Like, this is conditioning a population of people to behave in a certain manner, follow their leaders. You're absolutely right. Now we're talking about something that's real. Like, absolutely. That is what I'm concerned about. How much of the King James Bible is real, and how much of it was corruption and propaganda and brainwashing for the masses? And when you go to look for the Bible, you can't find it. It doesn't exist because they have it locked in the freaking Vatican. They're criminals. Imagine taking God's word, manipulating it, hiding it away, and then all the people just having parts of God's word. Anybody think maybe that's why the world's on fire? I do. The Catholic Church, in my opinion, is one of the most corrupt organizations to ever rule this earth. I'm not saying Catholicism is bad. I'm saying the church is bad. There's a lot of bad apples. A lot of perverts. Yeah. Not just perverts. The Catholic Church is also responsible for harming unwed mothers and forcing them to hand over their children to strangers. The Catholic Church has hurt a lot of people. What is this? I never know what's going on. I'm fine. Good morning. Yeah, the Catholic Church is a trip. Let's see if we can find the closest. How would I even say this? The closest form of the Bible other than Bible, not King James Version. Also, there are others. There's the New International Version. I don't want nothing new. The New Revised Standard Version. See, everything. The New Standard American Bible. No, I guess I need to go learn to read Hebrew. Like, for real. This is pissing me off. It's not about what's already there. It's about what's missing. And we'll never be able to get it. The Vatican have it. It's not about what's already been written or retworked or reworded. I'm not worried about that. I want all of it. I want all of it. Nothing should have been left out. Why does the church get to make that decision? Who are they? Who are they? I'll tell you who they're going to be when we stand before God. They're going to be just the same as me. I don't care who they are here. In his eyes, we are the same. So who is the church to take out parts of the Bible in 1604? What was happening in 1604 in Europe? What was the church doing in 1604? It evolved. There you go. It evolved into the Hampton Court Conference. King James presided over the conference in January of 6. So one king came along and said, we're going to switch some shit up. You have to question everything, y'all. You really should be. You really need to question everything, even unfortunately your religion, where it comes from, where it stems from, how it started, who wrote the Bible. Who wrote the Bible? I feel like this is one of those things, it's an ethical humanity thing that enough people could come together and somehow sue the church for those damn documents. Those documents are the most important documents that we have on earth. Over everything. Over the Declaration of Independence. Over all of our lives. Those documents are so much more important to humanity than any other documents on earth. And who has them? The Vatican. I'm more concerned right now with the, I'm going to learn Hebrew one day. It looks like I'm going to have to. Well, hell, I'll do it for nothing. The Vatican's got the darn sea scrolls. I won't be able to even read them. Maybe I need to go petition to get these sea scrolls. This is ridiculous. I had no clue about none of this. This is what I'm talking about when I say that they didn't tell me anything. Like, they didn't teach me. The church that I grew up in would have never told us this. But the truth is the Bible that we have today was manipulated by a king that probably shouldn't have been in power. How much was left out to help him, or what was added in to help him? Because you know it was. You know that it was. You know that there was stuff added. You know that there was stuff taken out because this was a king. And anytime we see an imbalance in power with a person in power and the citizens, there's going to be coercing. There's going to be grooming. There's going to be manipulation. There's going to be brainwashing the masses. It's very concerning. I did know some of the Bible was missing. I didn't know that it was 12 books. I didn't know I needed to clarify everything. I knew that the Bible had been manipulated, misused by the church to control masses. I knew that a good portion of the Bible was missing. I didn't know how many books. And I also knew that there was a good chance that the Bible was somewhat rewritten. Like, they say that they had to do it because it was written in Hebrew, but there's a lot of things that don't make sense now when we're looking at certain words that I've been reading in the Bible. When I go and find what it actually said in Hebrew, it's completely different than the King James version of what the Dead Sea Scrolls said. Completely different. I'll Google it. What is going on? It is too early to die. Jesus protect them. Where did that come from? Where did the... Oh. So it looks like the Geneva Bible was the most influential and read Bible in the influential English Bible in the 16th and 17th century. It was actually the Bible that they brought on the Mayflower to the Americas. Interesting. Thank you. So Mary the First was the Queen of England and Ireland from 1553 until her death in 1558. Her executions of Protestants caused her opponents to give her the name Bloody Mary. Oh, I know who that is. She was evil. It was her persecution that caused the Marian exile, which drove 800 English scholars to the European continent, where a number of them gathered in Geneva, Switzerland. There, a team of scholars led by William Whittingham and assisted by Miles Cloverdale, Christopher Goodman, Anthony Gillib, John Knox, and Thomas Sampson produced the Geneva Bible based on Greek and Hebrew manuscripts and revision of William Tyndale's New Testament, which first appeared in 1526. The Geneva Bible New Testament was published in 1557, with the complete Bible appearing in 1560. You know, I really don't think that God wanted us to have labels. Like, Christians, yeah, but like the difference in Southern Baptist, Lutheran, Protestants, all of this, I just think that he wouldn't like that. That's dividing us. That's not what his word says to do. You know what I mean? I think that all of these titles are a bit ridiculous. And I think he feels the same, because we are all brothers and sisters in Christ. And when we label things, we're dividing things. I'll have to look into that more. Interesting. I really wonder what all the church knows that we don't know. King James 1604. I can't breathe. Oh, the world is already on fire. It's ran by Satan. What are you talking about? I just watched a video of a guy go ask like 20 people in a damn Walmart how many people believed in God. There was more people that said they were Satanists than anything else. God is lost in this country. And the people that claim that they're Christians, they're not real Christians. Not all of them. You know what I mean? Because I see how they treated homeless people when I was homeless. When I'm homeless. So, yeah. God has been lost in this country for a while now. Really significantly in the past 5 years. But for a while. And it says that God is only taking 144,000 people in the rapture. So how many billions of people do we have on earth? How many millions of people are on earth? 8,000 million. So, it's 8 billion people. So there's 8 billion people on earth, but God says in his word that only 144,000 will leave during the rapture. So you do the math on that. Most theologians believe that 144,000 represents the complete and chosen group of believers from all tribes. And this is not a... Shit. I'm taking God's word as God's word. I don't care what theologians want to believe. And I've read that. Like, we studied that in Bible camp, the Rapture. So, I was in the Awanas program. We studied that. Let's see the scripture. In what scripture does God talk about taking only 144,000 people during the rapture? Revelation 7:4. And it's actually Revelation 7.1 to 8 describes 144,000 people from each tribe of Israel who are sealed by God. The passage has been subject to most of the debate and interpretation. That's another thing. I was looking up where Adam and Eve, where Eden was. It was in Israel. It was in Israel. Where Adam and Eve's, where the Garden of Eden was in Israel. I mean, it's pretty clear that these are God's chosen people. He says it time and time again, and he says that anybody that curses them will be cursed. So think about that the next time you want to damn rep for Palestine. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that that Eden was in Israel, or that 144,000 will only be taken in the rapture. Probably the rapture part, right? I don't know much about Jewish faith. I mean, I know who they are. I know, you know what I mean. Let's see. After I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of earth, holding back 4 winds of the earth, that no wind might blow on earth or sea against any tree. Then I saw another angel ascending from the rising of the sun with the seal of the living God, and he called a loud voice to the 4 angels who had been given power to harm earth and sea, saying, quote, "Do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the servants of our God on our foreheads." Then I heard the number of the seal, 144,000 sealed from every tribe of their sons of Israel. 12,000 from the tribe of Judah were sealed, 12,000 from the tribe of Reuben, 12,000 from the tribe of Gad, 12,000 from the tribe of Asher, and 12,000 from the tribe of... Yo, I can't say it. 12,000 Levi. Joseph, Benjamin were sealed. So, as we move to chapter 7, we are getting and have arrived at the point where good, thoughtful Christians are going to disagree on how to interpret this book. Yeah, because they want to go to heaven and they don't want to admit that they're not living right. Of course. Let's see. So the question is to take the prophecy literally or not. I guess everybody's going to do different. I take it literally. That means I got to work harder. 144,000 spots. I got to work damn hard. 8 billion people. I mean, I'm already halfway there, so I ain't really worried about it, but if you only knew. Yeah, if only 144 of us, that's my point. I gotta work harder. That's my point. You know, but maybe that's why God sent me back so many times. He wanted me to damn turn it around, and he's giving me another shot. Because I done died like over half a dozen times I've been dead, so. Overdoses. Heroin. Wake up out of a damn dead stupor with the damn EMS standing over you. You died. You've been dead for like 7 minutes, girl. We didn't think. And I don't think it was 7 minutes, but still, minutes. We had to use 2 cans of Narcan on you, girl. What did you take? I don't know. We definitely need to work harder because that's a lot. Reincarnation is real. Okay. You're allowed to feel that way. Recycling cans. Yeah, I agree with that. Joe Mama. Listen to this. I was reading more about King James. His parents were a mess. This is the guy that wrote the Bible. His parents were a mess. For James, the family drama started even before he was born. His parents were Mary, Queen of Scots, and her second husband, Henry Stuart, Lord Darnley. Both of them could trace their history back to King Henry V. I don't know. It's a V and an I. So not only were they cousins, but they also happened to inherit his affinity for scheming and scandals. He looks crazy. He looks inbred. Mary and Henry's marriage was no fairy tale. In fact, it was more like a horror story. Their union was rocky at the best of times and only got worse once Mary became pregnant with James. Henry thought Mary was having an affair with her secretary, David Rizzo. To his credit, he was probably right. So Henry did what any concerned husband would do. He and his buddies ambushed the two of them at a dinner table and brutally stabbed David 57 times. The pregnant Mary watched in horror as her husband butchered her maybe lover, but she'd get revenge in the end. What? James never met his murderous father. 8 months after his birth, Henry Stewart and his valet turned up dead in an Edinburgh orchard. The demise of The demise of the king consort sent shockwaves through the English Isles, and yet what Mary did was even more scandalous. Did she kill him? While James' father met a gruesome end, you could argue his mother's fate was even worse, though she kind of had it coming. Mere months after Henry's body was found, Mary, Queen of Scots, married once more. The man she married also happened to be the same guy everyone assumed had offed her last husband. We've got to admit, that's a pretty bold move, but it would cost Mary dearly and ensure James never got the chance to meet either of his parents. Within a few weeks of her remarrying, rebels captured Mary the Queen and locked her up in a secluded castle. They forced her to adaptate her throne to her son James, who was barely a year old at the time. From that day onward, James never saw his mother again. Holy shit, this is the guy that wrote the freaking King James Version Bible. He lost both of his parents. They were both... Y'all. Imagine never having a free thought because every moment of your life was already pre-planned for you and you were brainwashed from an infant. So who raised King James? The church? I don't know. We're about to find out. So Mary was thrown into a tower, a secluded castle. Mary, Queen of Scots. The Scots figured out that Mary had gone... Hold on. The Scots figured that Mary gone and a child on the throne, they could finally bring some peace to Scotland. They were wrong. They were some seriously wild years ahead. He was a baby king. James officially became King James is it the 5th of Scotland on July 29th, 1567. He was 13 months old. Since 1-year-olds don't generally know that much about politics, a council appointed the Earl of Moray to act as his regent. His job seemed pretty simple. Hold down the fort until James was old enough to rule. Too bad his time as regent ended up being an utter disaster. Hold on one second. Earl of Moray. It was held by the rulers of Providence. The Providence of Moray existed in the 10th century from the kingdom of Alba to the south. He rewrote it. Sorry, I gotta be specific. He rewrote it. He took out what he wanted, or what he didn't want, and he added what he wanted. There's 12 whole books missing. Grow up. His mother wasn't done yet. After a year's imprisonment, James' mother Mary managed to escape her confines and led a rebellion to try and reclaim her throne. This meant The first few years of James' reign were filled with bloody conflict and unrest. However, the Earl of Moray managed to defeat Mary's forces once and for all at the Battle of Langslide. Afterwards, Mary had to flee to England to live with her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. She hoped to one day return to Scotland and take back her throne, but instead she ended up meeting an even worse fate than her late husband. Mary, Queen of Scots, trusted Queen Elizabeth far too much. Though she had hoped Elizabeth would reclaim her crown, the Virgin Queen had no such plans. Mary ended up spending the last 2 decades of her life as a prisoner in England before she was accused of plotting Elizabeth's assassination. She was finally executed in 1587, a gruesome affair where it took 3 clumsy strikes to completely sever her head. Oh, that's the one. Oh, yeah. Okay. Mary, Queen of Scots, was no more, but her son James had a whole scandalous life ahead of him. Scandalous? Not the man that rewrote the Bible being scandalous. He had an isolated childhood. Let me tell you what that does to a child. It creates a psychopath. Maternal deprivation, we've talked about that on this channel before. It is a huge issue. I suffered from that as a child. And it can cause people to become complete psychopaths. We need human interaction for our brains to properly develop. Early childhood development is essential to us being healthy adults. If we skip some of those steps in early childhood development, we're creating narcissists, psychopaths, crazy people. So the fact that he was isolated as a child tells me a lot about potential for him being crazy as an adult. Not everybody comes out like that, but a lot. He had an isolated childhood. James eventually grew into a controversial and bizarre figure with more enemies than he could shake a stick at. Maybe you can chalk it up to an incredibly lonely childhood. His father was gone. His father was dead. Let's say what it is. His father was brutally murdered by his mother. His mother was then locked up because she planned to murder her cousin. And his grandparents were all either dead or out of the picture. All of the drama after his birth meant that he had no siblings either. The only people that James had around him as a small child was his tutors. You mean like someone that could condition him, groom him, prepare him to rewrite a Bible? I'm just trying to be clear at how these things work when I say stuff like that, because they absolutely do work that way. It looks like his tutors made his life a living nightmare. This picture is horrific. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. It looks terrible. I mean, that's horrific. That's a horror picture. His tutors were cruel. James wanted to, so his tutors wanted to mold him into the perfect little king. So he hired several men to act as the boy's tutors, but their methods were absolutely brutal. To turn James into a good, God-fearing ruler, I called it. They subjected him to regular beatings. Well, in my experience, the kind of tough love often has the opposite effect. It does. Psychologically, it does. When you spank a child, you're teaching them violence. And that is also through scientific studies, through early childhood development. He was going to turn out to be exactly the kind of king that his tutors feared. These damn youth mugshots, okay, are horrific. Look at how horrific. Y'all were cute arguing in the damn comments. The Earl of Moray didn't last long as James' tutors. He made a laundry list of enemies during his short ruling, and it was only a matter of time before one came for him. In the end, the one to step up to the plate was a man named James Hamilton, a staunch supporter of Queen Mary. Hamilton shot Moray in the streets with an early firearm, and Moray quite literally never saw it coming. No head of state had ever been assassinated with a firearm before. Murray was the first, but definitely not the last. It was time to find James a new tutor, but it soon became clear that anyone who took the job did so at their own peril. So let me get this straight. This child loses both of his parents. Y'all beat the hell out of him. Y'all teach him to fear God. Y'all start brainwashing him, conditioning him to run the country like you want him to run the country. Yeah. James' next two tutors both kicked the bucket within a year of taking over. The first took a fatal wound in battle. The second came down with a mysterious illness shortly after a banquet. And who do you think threw that banquet? His name was James Douglas, the Earl of Morton. And it just so happened he became the next tutor after that. Coincidence? Morton would actually fare better than the rest. He managed to survive his first year as King James' tutor, but he had one huge problem. James was growing up. Soon enough, it would be time for James to take power himself, and that meant huge trouble for anyone who got in his way. I've never heard this story. I knew who Queen Elizabeth was. I knew who Bloody Mary was. I knew who King James was, but I didn't know none of this. They didn't teach this in the church I went to. And this is the history of the Bible. So I think it's pretty imperative that people know it. Finally, over a decade, squandered away with his brutal tutors, it was time for James to arrive. At age 13, King James of Scotland made his formal entry into Edinburgh to take his place on the throne. For the first time, James discovered court life and everything that came with it. Among all the new sights and experiences in the new city, one thing in particular caught the young king's eyes. His name was Esma Stewart. He was a 37-year-old married father of 5 children, yet James absolutely had to have him. What is going on right now? What do you mean? Like, you want him to be your best friend? You want a best friend? You want to go skeet shooting, hit golf balls, play basketball? I started to say something else about balls that I can't say. You have got to be kidding me. Yeah, this is why they didn't teach me this in church. That is crazy. He was gay? How old was he? He was 13 on the day of when he took the place on his throne. He was 13, fiending after a 37-year-old married man with 5 kids. That's not normal. Let me just tell you, psychologically speaking, that is not normal. That is the beginning of sexual perversion. The beginning. He done began. He done began way ago to be acting like that at 13. He began way ago. That perversion started early. Wow. We need to talk about that one day. When I'm talking about this sexual perversion, these perverts, I need to talk about the psychology behind it, because if I know anything, it's that. For a 13-year-old boy to be swooning after a 37-year-old man and already mentally be preparing to manipulate this person or condition this man into something, that's not normal. If there's one thing you need to know about King James, it's this. The guy liked his boy toys. For nearly his entire life, his male favorites dominated his courts. And the first of these was Esma Stewart. By the time James was 14 years old, he and Stewart basically never left each other's side. Now, maybe you're thinking maybe James just looked up to this older man, seeing as he never knew his father. Well, wait until you hear about their relationship. King James was never the most discreet guy, and it didn't take long before people started to talk about his close relationship with Esma Stewart. An English envoy once visited James' court, and what he discovered absolutely shocked him. He wrote of how James was, quote, in such love with Stewart, as in the open sight of people often he will clasp him about the neck in his arms and kiss him. So these relationships were open. This was not, running from one quarters to the other quarters at, 3 a.m. in the middle of a castle trying to finesse each other by candlelight. This was front and center at the dinner table in front of everybody. Okay, well, the more you know, even if you don't like it, the more you know. Even if it might send you on a fucking mental breakdown. Yeah, they were into each other all right. And that meant James, his tutor, the Earl of Morton, was in some serious danger. The Earl of Morton had served in Scotland well in his years as, I can't say this word, as a tutor. But some people still hated his guts. Esma Stuart was chief among them. Well, soon enough, Stuart had the young King James in the palm of his hand, and that meant it was time to strike. Stuart had Morton accused of plotting, get this, the murder of James's father. Remember that guy found dead in the orchard all those years ago? There was next to no evidence for the accusation, but it's not like Stuart needed a good reason. James, at Stuart's urging, executed Morton with a gruesome instrument called the maiden. From that day on, Stuart became the main voice whispering in James' ear. But little did he know, his days were numbered too. Wow. This is crazy. Yeah, that device does not look like anything I want to die on. Thank you, JW. Is that a good word? Insistent? Is that what that is? Like persistent? I got the award, the only award that I ever won in school was for persistence. Persistentness. So if that's what you mean, yes. Thank you. If it's an insult, I'll pray for you. The people hated his favorite. King James was absolutely infatuated with this Stuart guy. The rest of Scotland, not so much. His French origins made people suspicious, and Protestants thought he might secretly be Catholic. Plus, he and James basically made out in public all the time. This is the guy that rewrote the Bible. I just need y'all to know, if you don't know, homosexuality is a sin. People had no choice. People had to notice that. Scottish Calvinists began to worry that Stuart might draw the king to cardinal lust. Calvinist? That's what it is. That's as close as I can get if it's not. If you ask me, it seems like they were way past the point, but no one can say for sure. What we can say for sure is that those Calvinists decided to put an end to it. So the church didn't like that young James was over here fornicating with a man old enough to be his father. King James and Esma's Stuart's Call Me by Your Love Name Romance was at its end. In 1582, several Protestant earls captured James, locked him in the castle, and forced Stuart to leave Scotland forever. The two of them would never see each other again, but as far as James' male companions goes, Stuart was only the beginning. Look at the castle. We are talking about King James, the man that revised, rewrote, left some stuff out of the Bible. Plenty of the people in Scotland were willing to turn a blind eye to James' particularly intimate relationship with Esma Stuart. In fact, many condemned him on his remarkable chastity. What a good Christian boy. He hardly even looks at women. James continued to surround himself with almost exclusively male companions. But James was king, and king needed a queen. So by 1589, the time had finally come to find a match. Oh, that poor woman. Oh, he married a Danish princess. This is, y'all, this drama, this is the kind of drama I like, okay? This history drama, this stuff is better than any Jerry Springer episode right now. After a long search, James' advisories finally picked a suitable bride, Princess Anne of Denmark. Wasting no time, Anne set sail for Scotland in her new life. I'm sure she was excited. Queen of Scotland sounds like a pretty good gig. No doubt. Little did she know her royal marriage wasn't going to be anything like those in the stories. But maybe she could have guessed that based on the catastrophic start to their relationship. First of all, why did everybody look so crazy back then? I mean, they looked like they were inbred in all their pictures, because they were. Everybody was at least cousins. Yeah. They look crazy in these pictures. As soon as the new Prince Anne set sail to marry King James, a powerful storm wrecked her ship. She was barely able to make it ashore in Norway alive. If you believe in bad omens, you probably say that's a pretty troubling way to start a marriage. But if this sign from God made Anne of Denmark nervous about her new husband, what he did next helped put her mind at ease. You could call King James a lot of things, but romantic was not one of them, at least not when women were involved. But something must have come over him when he heard his new wife was trapped in Norway. He personally led an expedition of 300 men to go fetch her himself. Anne must have thought she'd found her Prince Charming when James sailed over the horizon to rescue her. I'm sorry, because this is so funny. The way whoever wrote this, you are comical. Anne must have thought she found her Prince Charming when James sailed over the horizon to rescue her. Give it a few years, Anne. James would show his true colors before long. After their marriage, James and Anne went to Denmark to attend Anne's sister's wedding. It was on that trip that James discovered one of his darkest obsessions: witches. I just want to just beat my head into the cement right now. This is so crazy. Well, hell, how am I going to find the Word of God if it don't even exist because the Vatican's got it locked in the basement? I'm just saying, I really don't want to be taking my Word of God from some man that had an affinity for little boys and older men and witches. It's kind of like the blind leading the blind. I mean, call me crazy, but I kind of backed away from that stuff. I don't want to be... Anyways, though not yet popular in Scotland, the Danes frequently performed witch hunts. It's not like James had that much love for women to begin with, but after the trip to Denmark, he made it his mission to root out witches and led some of the most horrific acts of his life. Oh, so he was killing them. That's just as bad. Just as bad. God in his word says, what? Thou shalt not kill. James wasted no time in prosecuting witches. When storms racked, this is his, like I said, he's a psychopath. When storms wrecked his ships on his return to Scotland, he blamed witchcraft and ended up trying several women as witches as a result. He seemed to take personal pleasure in this, and he personally supervised the questioning of witches where confessions were brutally forced out of them. Let me tell you something. This man hated women. He was probably angry at his mother. We don't know. I can't sit down and do a damn complete psych eval on this son of a biscuit, but it's clear in his behavior he didn't really have much respect for him. And the fact that he took personal pleasure in questioning and or torturing these people, that's a psychopath. For obvious reasons, many historians assume that King James was gay, but there's one hole in that story at first. At least James seemed completely infatuated with his new wife, Anne of Denmark. He doted on her and showed great affection for her publicly. Honestly, the early years of their marriage seem remarkably happy, except for one major problem. They didn't have no kids. James and Anne's marriage was cause for excitement in Scotland, but the years began to pass. Oh, and this was in Scotland. What am I talking about? But the years began to pass, and little no prince or princesses appeared. That would lead to some rumors for most kings, but most people had not forgotten about James' PDA with these boys. Questions about James' manhood and Anne's fertility was on everyone's lips. James and Anne needed a child, and they needed it quickly. I'm sorry, y'all. We don't do retracted messages on this channel. Lord. So they needed a kid quick. They need the heir to the throne. Finally, in 1594, I have dyslexia. That's why I can't read that right well. That, and I talk too fast, and I have anxiety. 5 long years after the wedding, James and Anne welcomed a son, Henry. The lack of a child had been a sword over their heads, and Henry's birth should have been a massive sigh of relief. But with King James, there was always something. You see, by this point, his relationship with his wife had already started to show cracks. And it didn't take long for James' eye to begin wondering, oh man, you know he's got an affinity for them little boys. Well, he was a little boy when he started messing with a man. By 1594, the honeymoon period was officially over. Maybe it was the lack of children, or maybe King James simply grew tired of his blushing bride. Either way, the once romantic James, who had swept Anne off her feet, had disappeared a long time. Hence, by the time Anne became pregnant, it was too late to save their lovely union. When Anne carried their child, James took maybe the only female mistress he had ever had, a minor Scottish noble named Anne Murray. When Anne of Denmark found out about James' affair, she was obviously furious, but James took it to the next level of betrayal. This son of a biscuit is a psychopath, y'all. James ripped Prince Henry from his mother's grasp, essentially, the moment he was born. Anne expected to raise the child herself, but the cold and callous James had other ideas. He sent the boy to live in a Stirling castle, miles from Edinburgh. Like any mother, Anne was absolutely horrified, and she was willing to do anything to get her son back. There's words missing. The birth of a child should have solved James and Anne's marital problems. Instead, it tore them even further apart. Anne began a fierce campaign to regain custody of her son, recruiting as many allies in the court as she could. When James got wind of this, his reaction was ice cold. He wrote to the Earl of Mar, Henry's guardian, and told him to never, under any circumstances, give up the prince unless James himself ordered it. He even made Mar promise not to give up Henry to Anne on the event of his death. James and Anne's fight kept on escalating, and it was about to take a tragic turn. This is getting juicy. Somehow, between very public arguments and private outrage, James and Anne found time to conceive another child. What? I think these people have worse problems than we got, y'all. What? You'd hope it would let them find common ground, but their fighting only grew worse and worse until it finally hit its peak. They had several public screaming matches that left Anne in tears, and in July of 1595, their last fight left Anne so devastated she miscarried. The fighting stopped after that. Anne was simply too heartbroken to continue. King James was a whole lot more popular than his mother Mary had been, but there were still many in Scotland who wanted his head on a platter. Clon Rothenvan, Ruthenvan, a powerful Scottish house, their leader, the Earl of Gowire, was the one man who had imprisoned James and forced Okay, so these people we're talking about, this Earl of Gowire, and Klein Rothenven are the two people who had imprisoned James and forced Ezma Stewart, the gay guy that James was kissing all over in the court, to leave Scotland. So they had separated these two and made him leave. It's the same people. As James grew older, he grew more and more powerful. It put him on a collision course with Klein Rothenven, and it was about time James got blood on his hands. In 1600, this was 4 years before this king would rewrite, manipulate, take the word of God away, okay, out the Bible. He would rewrite. He said that they were going to decode the Hebrew into English. 4 years later, 1604 is when the King James Version Bible was written. In 1600, James and his entourage visited the Gowrie House, the seat of the Clan Rotherman. It was bounded to be a tense dinner party. It ended up turning into a bloodbath. At some point in the evening, Alexander Ruthven threw himself at James, armed and ready to kill. However, James's page acted quickly and managed to run Alexander through with a sword. That's when the chaos broke out. James guards and the Ruths erupted into a bloody bath, and by the time the fighting had stopped, the Earl of Gowrie had the head of clan lay cold. For many, it seemed a fitting end to a traitor whose family had attacked the king. But is that really how things went down? Turns out there's more to that night than meets the eye. Sorry, y'all. I was not expecting to have a history lesson today, but I'm so thoroughly involved in this story that I have to hear the end. Ever heard the phrase, history will be point in case. History will be written by winners. History is written by the winners. Well, James was definitely the winner that night. His account claimed that Alexander had attacked him, forcing his own men to retaliate. But what about James' long-standing enmity with the clan, Rolf? Oh, so he owed them money. So it looks like they had problems in the past, or he could have happened to owe these people a ton of money. Many historians believe James planned the entire night to get rid of his biggest enemies. The Ruthvens had just learned the hard way that the King James played the Game of Thrones with the best of them, and he was just getting started. This is crazy, ain't it? Absolutely crazy. For now on, this name is Ruthven. If you want to go see this, I'm just going to say the Ruths because it's messing me up. So the Ruth affair, the Ruth had an unexpected side effect. It ended up irreparable. Y'all, what is wrong with me? I'm nervous. Like, these are big words. I'm also hot. I got a lot of sensory stuff going on, and this vape is not hitting. It's dead. This is interesting. I didn't know anything about this stuff. Give up. Oh, there it goes. I did not like that. Where's that thing at? You're plugged in. I'm trying to work on it. Y'all, I think I'm so dehydrated. That's how I woke up this morning. Seriously. My nose is stopped up too. I hope I'm not getting sick. Hey, you stay. You don't fall down on me. I really do. You know how it feels like there's somebody like scratching your throat? Like you got a little demon in there just like scratching at the back of your throat right there. I was going to plug this up, but I don't know where the cord is. They all need to be charged. Everything's dead. Here. I hate that. Screw it. So it looks like because that Alexander Ruth died, it made James' relationship with Anne even worse. Two of Anne's most beloved ladies in waiting were Ruth's. And after the debacle at the house where Alexander died, he fired them both. Anne was absolutely livid, and despite the fact that she was 5 months pregnant, she went on a hunger strike until James reinstated them. What? What the fuck? Jesus, please. So Anne looked her husband square in the eye and told him, quote, "Take care in how you treat me, for I am not the Earl of Growy," which is the guy, I guess, that was killed, and then, or one of the Ruths were killed, and then James fired these people. She is saying the implication was clear. James could not simply get rid of Anne the way that he had with the Earl. He couldn't just fire her. He couldn't just kill her, is what she was saying. Take care in how you treat me, because I ain't them other people. James couldn't simply get rid of her. In the end, it ended up being one of the few victories of poor Anne of Denmark's life. James did not rehire Anne's ladies, but he gave Beatrix, Ruth, a pension to just make Anne happy. James needed his whole affair behind him. Anyway, he was on to much bigger things soon. Y'all, I'm thinking about buying a box of damn nicotine patches. I'm so sick of these vapes. I'm sick of it. I don't want to do it. I hate it. Good morning, Reg. No, I'm sick. I just don't want to smoke them. I don't want to smoke it. It's so frustrating to want to quit and not be able to. Thank God I got those cough drops. It's helping my throat. That's why they were in the seat, because I already had to eat 2 of them this morning. I woke up hacking. That's what woke me up. It feels like I was a mouth breather in my sleep. I had to have been asleep like, you know, because you wake up and it's so dry that you can barely even swallow water. You ever had your throat that dry? You can't even take a swig of water. It feels like you're going to choke. Yeah, it was dry. And then so I started eating one of those cough drops, and it does help. Here's the thing about a virgin queen. It's hard to leave behind an heir to the throne. So when Queen Elizabeth I passed without any heirs, her northernly cousin, James King V of Scotland, got the nod to her to succeed her. Elizabeth's advisors had planned on this for years, and they proclaimed King James the King of England on the very same day. So he was the King of Scotland, and because the Virgin Queen, Queen Elizabeth I, didn't have any heirs, they asked him to be the King of England. Does anybody know? I mean, I've watched some of The Crown. I don't have Netflix. I live in a car. So I got a computer, but I can't afford Netflix. I have YouTube. So that's my go-to. Yeah, Christina and Joey, I really do. I've wanted to quit for so long. My parents were smokers and they got me smoking. So that seems to be the gist of what this is saying. So when the Queen Elizabeth passed without any heirs, her northerly cousin, King James of Scotland, got the nod to succeed her. Elizabeth's advisors had planned on this for years, and they proclaimed James the King of England on the very same day. So, I mean, it's clearly what it's saying. It's just, they didn't teach me nothing in school, y'all. Nothing. How to fight. How to fight. That's all I learned in school. That's why all I did for damn 14 years. Before I ended up in juvie and spent 2 years in juvie. So, you know, it's kind of sad. James had done pretty well for himself in Scotland, but he was about to enter a whole new world. So he was the King of Scotland, raised with no parents, treated like crap, abused by his tutors. This is a crazy story, y'all. I didn't know none of this. None. And this is the man that revised and rewrote the Bible. Very interesting stuff. A couple of weeks later, this is why it's called the King James Version Bible. This guy was responsible for the revision of the Hebrew Dead Sea Scrolls. A couple of weeks later, James packed up and began his journey south. He promised his fellow Scots that he'd never forget where he came from and that he'd make sure to return at least every 3 years back to Scotland. So now he's going on to England to be the King of England. They ate it up, but every word was a lie. Once James got a taste of England's wealth, he pretty much forgot about Scotland completely. He only returned a single time in his 22-year reign. Y'all, this is a perfect... we need to go over this psychologically speaking, why everything went down, because there is a psychological explanation as to why King James behaved like this. And it absolutely has to do with his upbringing. He had no parents. He lived an abusive childhood. I'd be willing to bet that it was a very abusive childhood in many forms. There's a reason this man ended up behaving this way. And this is a perfect case for early childhood development and the psychological impacts of abuse on a child's brain. Or the lack of parental figures. The parental alienation. Maternal deprivation. This is crazy. I did not know this. But there's a reason that God threw this on my lap this morning. That's all I'm telling you. There's a reason God threw this on my lap. This is crazy. Once James got a taste of England's wealth, he never returned but once in 22 years to Scotland. This thing is getting, now I'm getting too, I can't swallow. Now it's too, I'm too oiled up. So King James of England got his first taste of his new life on the journey to south to London. Every house he stopped at on his trip showered him with extravagant feasts and expensive gifts. James could hardly believe what he was seeing. He exclaimed that he was swapping a stony couch for a deep feathered bed. But it's no wonder he put Scotland in the rearview mirror. But while England promised greater riches and luxuries for King James, it also promised far greater problems. Much bigger land, isn't it? A lot more people, a lot more responsibility. When James headed to London, his wife Anne saw her chance to take back their son once and for all. Because remember, he's got the baby locked in a tower somewhere and won't let his wife see her child. As soon as, and you know, the crazy thing back then wasn't no legal system. I mean, they had a legal system, but it wasn't like today's legal system where both parents are kind of 50-50. That was a hopeless situation. She didn't have a shot in the dark of having any control over being able to see her child, especially with him being the King of Scotland. Anne gathered her closest allies and beeline straight for Stirling Castle and her son, whom she had barely seen in 5 years. She planned to take her boy by force, but there was just one problem. The keepers of the castle wouldn't let her men inside. Is that her? I guess it is. This was Anne going to get her baby back. First of all, I thought that was a man. Is that Anne or is that a man? I don't know. These old paintings creep me out, y'all. They was doing too much inbreeding, okay? I mean, any inbreeding is bad, but like, they was going hard with the inbreeding, okay? As you can clearly see. Anne was absolutely furious. She was the Queen of England now, after all, but they would not budge. Sadly, this latest scheme ended in tragedy as well. The stress of the event caused her to have a second miscarriage, but this time, Anne had more fight in her. She looked like she got a lot of fight in her, if I'm just being honest. She looked like a whole man. Sorry. Once James settled in England, he wrote to his wife and told her to come join him. So Anne decided to shoot her shot. She refused. Whoever wrote this is so good. She refused to come to England unless James gave her custody of her son. She knew that this was a sign of tension between the king and the queen, and it would look bad to James and his new subjects. For James, it just wasn't worth the hassle anymore. He finally relented, but you can bet on one thing. Any love between husband and wife was completely now dead. You think? Let's see if this will hit. As if James' marital problems didn't take up enough of his time, the new king of England very quickly realized he had inherited a whole host of problems. Host of problems. Crippling taxation and ruthless monopolies meant his new people were on the brink of rebellion. And a 400,000 debt from a war with Ireland didn't help things either. Monopolies? Taxation? I said those right? All right. I've been reading stuff so quick, I don't even know if I'm saying it right. I just take a gander and guess. Seriously. Listen, I have no formal education. Bless my heart. I try. I mean, he wasn't bad looking. That one ain't too bad. I mean, you know, that's kind of a handsome man. I mean, it was the 1600s, so you give him a little touch up, take that hat off, throw a baseball cap on him, stick him out in the sun for an hour. He would be marryable if he wasn't a psycho. They was all fluorescent too. You know, they had never seen no sun. You would think they'd be out in the fields, but they was kings and queens. They was sitting up in the castle eating and drinking and dramaing. So, no, it didn't take long for the adoring crowds to remember just how miserable they were. And within the first year of his reign, people started to come for James's head. Causing a ruckus in England, I see. So the people of England don't like him. Wow, there were two major conspiracies to dethrone James in his just first the first 12 months he was on the throne. There was twice they were trying two major conspiracies to dethrone him. The byplot and the main plot both came remarkably close to fruition but fell apart at the last moment. When authorities captured those who had conspired against him, it proved an early chance for James to prove what kind of king he would be, and his response shocked everyone. Remember, there were still people alive who remembered the axe-happy Tudors like Henry VI and Bloody Mary. I don't know these numbers, y'all. A king before him. So imagine the Londoners' surprise when James actually pardoned all but one of the conspirators. He decided that he didn't want his reign to begin with bloodshed, so he showed mercy. Unfortunately, if he had known what was coming, he probably would have wished he'd been much, much harsher on anyone who tried to cross him. Whose side are you on? Because I ain't on his side. The article sounds like it's on his side. He ain't been the best guy. I mean, it's kind of not his fault. Look at his upbringing. That kid probably went through more gruesome acts of violence and stuff that we could ever imagine. I'm just telling you that people are decrepit, y'all. They always have been. When James arrived in London, send help. Send help. When James arrived in London, he found a well-oiled machine, several powerful politicians had been looking after the affairs of government in the final years of Elizabeth's life, so James didn't actually have to do much of anything at all. He was free to spend most of his time in leisure, mostly hunting, while his advisors ran the show. What'd I say? They just living it up. He wasn't hunting. He's too fluorescent to be out in them fields. Tell that lie to somebody else hunting. He ain't seen sun since Jesus was a boy. But while James mostly avoided the nitty-gritty of running a country, he did focus hard on one particular thing. Don't tell me it was young boys. Please, God, Jesus. I can't. The King of Scotland become the King of England presented a very unique opportunity. England and Scotland had fought each other for centuries, but now, for the first time ever, the same man ruled both nations. More than anything else, James dreamed of being the first ever great king of Britain. However, there's one thing he didn't count on. Pretty much every single person in both England and Scotland absolutely hated that idea. Okay, well, I like this idea better than his obsession with boys. So, I'll take this. Opposition to the whole King of Britain thing flared up pretty much instantly. He tried to make it official, but the House of Commons refused his request. This is where things just got sad. Though Parliament made it very clear that England and Scotland were still very much separate countries and that Great Britain did not exist as a political entity, James still used the title at every chance he got. It really didn't mean anything, but hey, at least it made him feel better. No. These people, listen, maybe he wasn't gay. He had sex at least 8 times and probably, the chances of fertility and probably a lot more than that. James and Anne had 8 children together, and though only 3 of them survived into adulthood. The last was born in 1607, but by that time, the unhappy couple had long since begun living in separate palaces. Must be nice. Then one final miscarriage led Anne to decide she didn't want to get pregnant again. By that point, James pretty much only visited her to make more children. Without that, their marriage fell apart completely. There was a lot of unhappy marriages back then, and it was because of forced marriage, because they would want elites to marry elites. So, she was the Princess of Denmark, so she came all the way from damn Denmark to Scotland to be, she was a princess in her own right in Denmark. So, it's still like this, they still operate this way across the world, lots of places. I think that forced marriage is probably the quickest way to an unhappy marriage. It's pretty evil, in my opinion, to force people to be together. And, that's just weird, to force people to like each other and, then have kids together. It's just disastrous. It's disastrous. I feel for people that are in that situation. A lot of religions do that and stuff, too. So, anyways, when a French envoy visited the English court in 1604, they came looking for all the juiciest gossip, and Queen Anne was more than willing to dish it out. She complained about James' ever-increasing drinking and made a grim prediction. Quote, the king drinks so much and conducts himself so ill in every respect that I expect an early and evil result. End quote. It's kind of crazy that he was doing all this stuff. And, how did the Bible play into this? That's my next question in a minute. When did he have time to revise the Bible? And he actually paid for the efforts. And why would he do that if he was living this type of lifestyle? It doesn't even make sense, because those are not, the way he was behaving is not conservative values, and the Bible is very traditional conservative values. So I'm confused. It's okay. Anne must have known the envoy would take that news back to France, but she spilled the beans anyway, though soon her husband's drinking would be the last of her problems. So one of the reasons that the English people liked James so much at first was because he was a Protestant. If it came out that James secretly had Catholic sympathies, it could be utter ruin for the new king. When one of his spies discovered his wife's secret, he was furious. She had accepted a rosary from the Pope himself. In a knee-jerking reaction, James publicly denounced the Catholic Church, something he had avoided doing thus far. It made his Protestant supporters happy, but as you can imagine, it made many Catholics angry, and some of them even got angry enough to do something about it. English Catholics worried about James from the start. When Elizabeth childless, who was, what would that be? Predecessor? Is that the one that comes before? Anyway, she was the queen before James took over. With Elizabeth childless, they held out hope that a Catholic monarch might succeed her. And then James came along, a staunch Protestant with 2 sons to carry on the line. Many Catholics felt like they were running out of time to put one of their own back on the throne, and James' proclamation sealed those fears. Tensions were high, and James' next proclamation was the last straw. James denounced the Catholic Church, but that wasn't a strong enough statement. 3 days later, he ordered all Jewish and Catholic priests to leave the country. What? He reinstated fines for anyone who refused to attend the some kind of church services. Being Catholic was officially against the law in England. What? I'm sure Jesus expected some pushback to this drastic measure, but I doubt he realized it would be so or James. Did I say Jesus? I'm thinking about Jesus right now. Did I say Jesus? I'm sure James expected some pushback to this drastic measure, but I doubt he realized it would be so explosive. They outlawed Catholicism in England. Y'all, I did not know any of this. What did they teach me in church or school? That is wild. Catholic conspirators had long enough, and they hatched a now infamous plan to assassinate James, destroy the House of Parliament, and install his daughter Elizabeth as a Catholic monarch. The Gunpowder plot was bold, and it was extremely dangerous, and yet it came remarkably close to coming to fruition. You know the rest of the story. No, I don't. What are you talking about, Becky? No, I don't. I know they didn't just say that to me. Guards found Guy Fawkes underneath the House of the Lords guarding a whopping 36 barrels of gunpowder. The resulting explosion intended to take place during the state opening of Parliament. It would have completely crippled an entire English government. What? Talk about an explosion. My brain is exploding right now. However, at the final hour, a mysterious whistleblower revealed the plot. Could you imagine if that would have went off? How that would have changed the world? What the world would, y'all, this is wild. This is so good. This is the kind of drama I like. The plot foiled. All of the remaining conspirators fled the city. They ran. They were chickens. If they thought they could escape James' wrath, they were wrong. James' forces eventually cornered the remaining conspirators at the country inn, leading to a deadly standoff. 2 of them were shot in the Francis? I don't know what that is. But those 2 got off lucky. James' men dragged the remaining traitors back to London, where they each received a very public and very gruesome execution. Executioners castrated and disemboweled several of them while still breathing. Guy Fawkes managed to, and I don't know if that's how you say that, Fawkes, it's Fawkes, managed to escape that fate at least. He jumped from the scaffolding and broke his own neck. And the worst part is, each of them lost their knives knowing that their plot had not only lost them y'all. The worst part is, each of them lost their lives that night, knowing that their plot had not only failed, but that the vengeful King James would make life for English Catholics even worse. He had shown most mercy before, but he wasn't going to do it again. This is a lot. I did not know it was this long. This is crazy. The whole thing. If I could have proofread this, I could do it. So the gunpowder plot actually turned out great for King James, all things considered. Though his popularity had already started to wane, the attempt on his life made the people love him again. The people's renewed support also allowed his advisors to raise taxes higher than they'd been in years, and the relieved masses were happy to pony up. The years that followed were probably the best of James' entire life and reign, but a devastating tragedy was just around the corner. Remember all that fighting that James and Anne had done over their son, Prince Henry? Well, that was long time in the past, and now Henry was growing into a remarkable, confident, and popular young man. Actually, confident might not be the right word. Arrogant was more like it. Maybe his mom turned him against his dad, but Henry showed absolutely no respect for his father, king or not. Well, I mean, it's a psychopath raising a little psychopath. What'd you think was going to happen? Like, crazy. Neither Henry nor James got the love, affection, care, upbringing, guidance. None of that, okay? These people did not have normal lives. Like, you know, yeah, it makes the situation worse, in my opinion. Once while out hunting, James called Henry out for his lack of enthusiasm. Henry lost it and almost struck his dad with a cane before riding off in a huff. Pot, meet, kettle. Then, to salt the wound, most of the hunting party rode off with the prince, leaving James sitting there looking weak and embarrassed. Yep. Sounds about right. You raise a little monster, and that monster turns on you. It was starting to look like Prince Henry might become a serious problem for James. The boy was probably even more popular than he was, and his blatant lack of respect was making James look bad. James was going to have to deal with this issue before it ballooned and threatened his rule. But then, in a twist of fate, the problem solved itself, though not in the way James would ever have wanted. Oh, snap. Poor little Henry. In 1612, Henry, the Prince of Wales, suddenly fell ill with a violent fever. He passed in a matter of days. Queen Anne was particularly devastated, and visitors were told to never mention the prince or even offer condolences because, quote, she cannot bear to have it mentioned. As if James and Anne's relationship hadn't been bad enough before, now he only reminded her of her lost son. What kind of fever? We sure it was a fever? We sure about that? The people of England adored the Prince of Wales, and they shared in Queen Anne's grief. Over 1,000 mourners attended his funeral, though I bet none of them realized what they were in for. During the somber occasion, a crazed naked man... I'm not making this up. I swear I'm not making this up. It sounds like people have been crazy since the beginning of time. Not people streaking in the middle of a funeral in 1604. Yes. During the somber occasion, a crazed naked man sprinted through the mourners, screaming that he was Prince Henry's ghost. Now, there's a sight you wouldn't soon forget, but a notable face wasn't there to see it. James himself. But one notable face wasn't there to see it. So James didn't even go to his own son's funeral. Once again, that's a lack of connection, a lack of remorse, a distance of emotion. I mean, it screams psychopath, y'all. I don't know too many people that wouldn't go to their own child's funeral. It's concerning. James allegedly hated funerals, and he refused to attend his son's service for that reason. Now, it might also have to do with his son's total disrespecting him. Who can say? Either way, James didn't bother to show up to bid his son goodbye. He had a new boy toy to keep him plenty busy anyways. Y'all, this is the man that revised the Bible. I just can't. I can't. After James' controversial relationship with Esme Stewart in his youth, he mostly avoided showing too much fondness for any specific men in public. That all changed in 1607. Isn't that interesting? 3 years after the King James Bible was written, King James himself is over here in 1604 hooking up with another man when the Bible strictly prohibits homosexuality. I just think that we need to maybe learn from things. Apparently, James figured out now that he was the king of England and who was going to stop him. That year, he attended a jousting contest, and one particularly cute contestant happened to catch his eye. During the tournament, a 17-year-old... Now we getting into... Yeah. During that tournament, a 17-year-old page named Robert Carr fell from his horse and broke his leg. Evidently, it was love at first sight. James personally helped nurse Carr back to health, and just like that, King James had a new favorite to dote upon. He lavished Carr with gifts and titles, eventually making him the Earl of Somerset. But being the king's favorite could be a double-edged sword. Not him falling into pedophilia. Robert Carr was known for two things. He was absolutely gorgeous and dumb as a rock. Whoever wrote this, I need you to come help me run my channel, because you are my spirit animal. He was absolutely gorgeous, but he was dumb as a rock. Apparently, that's just how James liked him. Over the next 8 years, Carr enjoyed a meteoric rise. He went from being a nobody page, but a pretty bad jouster, to the king's closest confidant, something like that, and one of the most powerful men in England. James gave him endless gifts, even his own castle, and let him have sway over important matters in government. Do you think Carr could handle any of this? Of course not. The king loved him for now, but he was bound to slip up eventually, and he did. And did he ever? So this was that fine jousting man. And listen, I gotta admit, he is pretty fine. I ain't gonna lie, he pretty, okay? So listen. I ain't mad at James, okay? I ain't mad at him. That was the jousting man that he fell for. They did say he was dumb as a box of rocks, though. So even though he's cute, he probably would have bored me to death. You know what I mean? The relationship between King James and his favorites was always a little unconventional. James let Carr have love affairs of his own. Oh, wow. So you was a sugar baby with sugar babies. Okay. Whatever rules your kingdom. Okay. James let Carr have lovers of his own, so long as he always knew where his bread and butter was. No. As long as he knew where his bread was buttered. What? Eventually, Carr began an affair with a young married woman named Frances Howard. He begged James to force the bishops to grant Howard a pretty shady divorce so that he could have her. Oh, so he wasn't even gay to start with. He was just out here playing chess. Okay. He liked women. But he was just... I mean, he could have been bi. Whatever. Listen. Since what James boy toy wanted, he got. James did as Carr asked. Carr was totally unaware that he had just sealed his own doom. What? So this was the woman that the cute jouster went for. You know, it's kind of crazy because they don't look as inbred as all of the kings we were looking at. Ain't that crazy? So it might have not been a bad thing to be a peasant back then. That might have meant that you weren't inbred as much. You know, because she ain't got that look and the jouster didn't either, and they were common folks. So Robert Carr started spending a lot of time with his new wife, far too much time for King James' liking. In one angry letter, James wrote, quote, "You have been creeping back and withdrawing yourself from lying in my chamber." Notwithstanding many hundred times earnest soliciting you to the contrary. Listen, he's got a way with words. I like it. I'd rather you talk to me like that than be like, "Hey, what's up, Ma? I'd like to slap them cheeks." The weight of my heart is through 1600 poetry, okay? James had been the one making Carr's marriage happen, and now he started to regret it. So James got jealous of his boy toy's new wife. He'd regret it a whole lot more when Carr's new wife killed a man. What? Robert Carr made James Court play out like a soap opera. So it's fitting that, the Carrs. Okay, so that it's fitting that Tom, as James' favorite, came to a ridiculously scandalous end. Carr's best friend, Thomas Overbury, had opposed his marriage to Frances Howard. As revenge, Howard had Overbury poisoned. When news of this came to light, James was absolutely ruthless. Seeing the chance to get rid of his fallen favorite and his troublesome wife, James had them both face trial. James wanted to teach Robert Carr a harsh lesson, but he flinched at the last moment. The court sentenced both Carr and Howard to hang, but James could not bear to see his lifelong favorite meet such an end. He commuted both of their sentences, how kind, but he left them to rot in the Tower of London for several long years out of spite. I still don't understand why he financed the rewriting of the Bible if he's out here acting like this. I am so confused. I'll find out. That's the number one question I got coming. This is crazy. Damn, I need to find more stories like this, because this is like amazing. Okay, just because I thought my life story was rough. I'm so cute. Just because James was done with Robert Carr didn't mean he was done with male favorites. Of course not. He's still alive. The perversion never dies. Right around the time his relationship with Carr fell apart, a new face entered the picture. A now infamous George Villers? Is that George? Well, if that's George wasn't bad looking either. Okay. George married with children, though. So maybe George was off the market, but let's see what happened. George Villers, I think it's Villiers. George Villers was the whole package. This is so good. He was allegedly extremely handsome and keenly intelligent. So definitely an upgrade from Carr in that regard. Remember, he was the one dumb as a box of rocks. He was a commoner, but that didn't matter to King James. Of course not. That's even better. Even better. You know, financial abuse is still abuse. And rich people like James clearly would love the opportunity to be able to manipulate someone with wealth. Okay? So it works out in his benefit if he's messing with commoners. And he's messed with quite a few, so it seems to be a behavioral pattern that he, psychologically, he knows that he can get what he wants out of these men because he has money and they don't. That didn't matter to James. Not long after they met, James made him a knight. A few years after that, he took it a step further. He made Villers the Duke of Buckingham. The first commoner to become a duke in over a century. Like Carr before him, George soon became one of the most powerful men in England, all thanks to King James. He paid a heavy price for it in the end, but for now, he was living large. George had one thing going for him that James' other favorites didn't. The Queen absolutely loved him. Though she and James basically never saw each other by this point, Anne and George became remarkably close. She affectionately called him her dog. Weird nickname, but okay. And beseeched him to always stay true to her husband. And that he did. Unlike the fleeting relationships with Esma Stewart and Robert Carr, James remained with George for the rest of his days, which, by this point, were growing fewer and fewer. The tea. It's piping hot. At this point, James and the Queen Anne were husband and wife in name only. Each of them seemed to be waiting for the other to croak. And Anne went first. Anne croaked first. She suffered from painful gout and dropsy in her final years and became more and more reclusive as her condition grew worse. James knew of her illness, yet he was too busy with George to be bothered to often visit. James only saw his wife 3 times during her final illness, and he wasn't there when she passed at age 44. 44? Whew, that's young, honey. That's young. 44. Yeah, I'm seeing Island's life living. You think? You think? God, this is crazy. The church didn't teach me nothing about this. So despite their incredibly difficult marriage, losing Anne hit James surprisingly hard. As with his son before her, James didn't attend his wife's funeral, but he had a pretty good reason at the time. His own health was beginning to fail by now, and news of Anne's passing left him suffering spells of fainting, sighing, dread, incredible sadness. We call that depression. Sorry. He fell into a depression. He never really treated her well, and he spent far more time with his male favorites, but it seems like James did have some small place in his heart for Anne of Denmark. I bet so. They have been through a lot together. Just because he's a psychopath doesn't mean that her death won't affect him. It might not affect him in the ways that it would affect a normal person, but yeah. Anne of Denmark got the short end of the stick in life. She lived as a powerless and marginalized queen who had to watch her husband flaunt his male lovers in front of the entire court, but she did win one victory over James. In 1613, she shot his favorite dog. This so-called accident took place during the 1613 hunting expedition. James may have taken her son from her, ignored her, and cheated on her, but she went to the grave knowing that she took away something he loved. I ain't mad at her. I mean, this woman thought she was coming from Denmark, or I'm assuming that's why, because she was the queen of Denmark, right? The princess. She thought she was coming from Denmark to have this wonderful marriage and become, the new queen of Scotland, and that is not what she signed. I mean, that's what she signed up for. This is not what she got at all. In the years following Anne's passing, King James' health grew worse and worse. Arthritis, gout, kidney stones, you name it, he had it. The fact that he drank constantly and lost all of his teeth definitely didn't help matters either. God, he looks horrible. His mouth looks like a butthole. Don't it? Tell me his mouth puckered up like that. Don't. Why did they draw him like that? They did him so dirty. So dirty. Alright. Eventually, King James grew too feeble to take part in government at all. He almost always stayed at the country estates while George, that's his lover, and his son, the soon-to-be King Charles I, ran things in London. Finally, in 1625, he suffered a stroke, and that spelled the end. He held on for a few more weeks before a painful bout of dysentery, claimed his life. He must have been a horrible sight with no teeth, swollen appendages, and open stores, but still his greatest love, George, was there by his side at the end. Listen, I don't even know what to think. Ain't it crazy somebody could do something they could be so evil as he was, and I still be sitting here saying, well, the poor man never had anybody in life. Well, at least he had one person by his deathbed. I mean, he was only that way because of the neglect, because of the maternal deprivation, because of the abuse. He was only, in my opinion, I don't believe that people are born evil. I just don't. I think things happen to them that make them go dark, that turn them evil, that let demonic energy into them. this is a boy who was severely abused. You know, so I just think that his whole story is sad. What he did to people was sad. I'm still confused as to why he was involved in the Bible behaving like this. But at least on his deathbed, because in his birth, he did not have anyone there for him. His mother was not there. His father was not there. He was used as a pawn in a game during, you know, politics. At least in his death, he had somebody there for him once in his life, I guess. Not a good guy, but still a human. And in my opinion, he was messed up in the head because of his upbringing. But we'll never know for sure. I just don't believe people are born evil. I don't. James died as the first ruler of both Scotland and England, but he had to betray his own mother to do it. All those years ago, when the English had Mary, Queen of Scots, executed under shady circumstances, James publicly condemned the preposterous and strange procedure that led to her end. But while he talked a big game, he made no move against England for vengeance. James knew he had to keep playing nice if he wanted to inherit the English throne one day, so that's exactly what he did. Sorry, Mary, I guess you just weren't worth it. Ooh. So, but wasn't that the mother that, yeah, that was the mother that he was, I mean, they didn't have a normal mother-kid relationship. It's no surprise. He was raised, in my opinion, as a psychopath. It's no surprise that he betrayed his own mother. You know what I mean? Psychologically speaking, he had no bond with her. She was no one to him. Historians have debated the truth about King James' sexuality for centuries, and they will probably continue to do so for years to come. Those who claim he was straight point to the fact that he took an incredibly severe stance against sodomy, calling it one of those horrible crimes in which ye are bound in consciousness never to forget. Sorry, James, but Shakespeare had already written Hamlet, so people knew the phrase, "Lady doth protest too much, methinks." So King James was vehemently against Sodo, but the shocking letters he shared with George tell a different story. Really. Please do tell more. In one particular specific passage, George wrote, I'm not going to be able to say this. I'm not going to be able to read that, y'all. That is hardcore porn on my screen right now. And they were fornicating. They were fornicating. These are love letters that were found from James and George's meetups. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm sorry to my regular followers. Let me block this. Yeah, I know that's what we're talking about, Stacy, and I'm trying to show your message and YouTube won't let me. YouTube is censoring you. She said King James was gay. Why is that problem? Why are you censoring her, YouTube? And I hit show and it won't let me show it. So sick of this. So sick of it. See, Jim Mama said maybe James started AIDS. I don't know. He probably wasn't the first gay person, but good morning, Cecilia. Sorry, I'm just seeing that. Okay, good. Because it told me that I couldn't... YouTube was doing something weird. So it looks like after rebels forced Esma Stewart, the first love of King James, to leave Scotland, James never laid eyes on him again, but their relationship didn't end there. The two kept up a secret correspondence for years. Apparently, Stewart repaid James' obsession in kind writing. Quote, "The faithfulness which is engraved within my heart will which will last forever. Whatever might happen to me, I should always be your faithful servant. You are alone in this world, whom my heart is resolved to serve. Listen, let me tell you something. That ain't no bro code. That's a love letter between two men. That ain't no bro code. But those letters are nothing compared to what Stuart did after he passed on. He had his own heart removed, embalmed, and sent to James. These people were weird. He had his own heart removed, embalmed, and mailed to James. Well, what did they use back then? Pigeons. There was no U.S. Postal Service. I'm joking. He pigeoned his heart, his embalmed heart, to the king. Yeah, I would say they were gay. And anyone that wants to say otherwise just doesn't want to admit the truth. That's it. That's it. Wow. So this is why they took history out of school. I feel like I just sat through a 4-year... Yeah, I feel like I just went back to high school. I am like, my mind is like blown right now. Is this not wild, Cecilia? That is the wildest story. I knew nothing of that. I knew what the King James Bible was, but I had no clue who King James was. He was a very interesting character, and you listen, it's my belief that he was messed up severely because of his upbringing. Severely. Clearly. And here's the thing that's very interesting. A lot of young male boys that are abused sexually as children go on to become gay. It's, it happens. The fact that he had this affinity for, male companionship, I almost wonder if something, if James went through significant abuse. We know that he was alienated from his father. His father was dead, alienated from his mother. He did not have a normal upbringing, and he was raised by political people in the courts. He had tutors and mentors and stuff, and there's no telling what happened to him. But sometimes in life, if you're intuitive enough and you know enough about the way that people behave, human behavior, sometimes you don't need it in writing to understand. Looking at the history of King James, it's very clear. I don't believe that people are born that way. They are turned into that. And it's usually from trauma. Things that they witness, the way that, they're geared, the direction they're geared to go in life. That whole story is disturbing on so many levels. Crazy. Yeah, it does, Stacy. That's the thing. It's like, what? The church didn't tell me none of that. I hope you're having a great day, Chris. Good morning, Gary. Yeah, I mean, he was isolated to a tower. He was raised by political figures. I mean, yeah, they're part of the kingdom, but they're still running that kingdom on politics, and that's who he was raised by. He was raised by a bunch of random political figures in the kingdom. That's not a normal upbringing, and Lord knows what he went through. I really think that people look at things like the Game of Thrones and they forget that, like, that was real life. Like, Game of Thrones wasn't real life, but the way that the actors were portraying and the behavior that were going on at the time, that stuff was really going on, and 10 times worse than you could probably imagine. So anything they had no concept of psychology back then either. They did not recognize what locking that child and isolating him. It said that he lived in isolation for the majority of his childhood. If isolation turned Ted Kaczynski into the Unabomber, then what do you think isolation in early childhood development does to a child? This is called paternal deprivation. We've talked about this before, the psychology behind ignoring a child and not getting their basic needs met, their emotional needs met, their physical. Those things are so important for a child, because if not, they grow up turning into King James. I feel for him. He was absolutely evil. But the reason that he was evil is because someone, if what I feel is true, what I'm feeling is true, alleging, then that means that he would have had extreme attachment issues. He would have looked at people as disposable. And we see him behaving that way even with his own wife. There's so many markers for his psychopath. There's so many, when I was reading that, there was so many markers that screamed psychopath. And it would have come from extreme abuse, maternal deprivation, and isolation. And he has all of the markers. If not for a psychopath, then a narcissist. But narcissists don't typically, they're not going to necessarily take it to the point of torturing and physically and to bloodshed. And he did. And he took pleasure out of torturing people. That's a psychopath. The way that he was not able to connect with people, he could only connect, and even the relationships that we see him have, like with the first two men, I don't know, I just feel like they were surface level. They're not, and that's going to come with a psychopath's, the way that they connect. Psychopath and narcissist, they're going to be able to connect on a surface level. They'll never be able to actually have a meaningful connection and relationship. That bond they're incapable of that bond, because they lack empathy, compassion, basic human emotion. Yeah, this is a crazy case. I wonder if anybody's ever done a psychological evaluation on the story of Henry, of King James, because there's so much there to unload. And I'm not a clinical psychologist, but I'm sure that if a clinical psychologist sat down and read what I just read, they would be able to come up with a basic profile for someone who probably was a psychopath due to extreme abuse and, like I said, paternal deprivation, which is wild. I don't know why. I mean, that's definitely a case that should be looked over in psychology classes, and I would be willing to bet they probably have, because it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. The family history, the drug problems he was suffering with, he drank too much. His father did the same. There's so much psychologically to unpack when we're talking about King James. Very interesting story. God put that on my doorstep this morning. I don't even know how we ended up here. But the tea was hot. The tea was hot. So hot. Good morning, Randy. He was the King James, Andrew. Yes. I had no clue. No clue. Let's see what the damage is. I really had no clue. The more you know. Oh, the one question I was dying to ask this whole time. Why did he financed the King James Version Bible? If he's out here doing all of this, listen, I'm going to Google it. I want to know why he financed to have the Bible taken from Hebrew to English. If he's out here behaving like this, he clearly is not a believer of the Lord. Maybe he is. There's a lot of Christians that behave the same way. So maybe he was. But let's see. Let's just see. Because before we get started, I want to tell you why I believe he financed the revision of the Hebrew script into the English Bible. I don't think it was him. I think it was the people that raised him and somehow the church. So that's my belief before we even Google why he financed and how. Why did King James finance the revision of Hebrew into English, the Bible? So this says to settle religious differences, strengthen his power, and solidify the Church of England. I'm confused, y'all. He was Protestant, wasn't he? Or no, it said, please somebody help me. Google is not the all knowledgeable eye, okay? Why would he denounced Catholicism. So it looks like, I'm sorry, I'm not biting my lip. King James appointed 54 scholars to work on the new translation. The scholars used previous English Bible translations as well as Hebrew, Greek, and Latin texts and manuscripts. Jesus Christ. So the first version was published in 1611, but they started financing it and decoding it in 1604. In 1604, England's King James authorized a new translation of the Bible aimed at settling some thorny religious differences in his kingdom. It makes me want to cry because it makes me feel farther away from God now, knowing that this was politics and knowing that I could never see God's actual word and what the disciples wrote because his word was used for politics. That's what it says. I mean, you got to read through the bullshit. But settling some thorny religious differences in his kingdom. This is why they retranslate it, brought 5 different other things that are, what did it say? 5 other Hebrew, Greek, Latin, and other manuscripts, and an English Bible that had already been previously translated. So they brought multiple different things together to create the King James Version Bible so that it would settle some thorny religious differences in his kingdom. It's the same thing as political commercials on TV nowadays, telling us bits and pieces of stuff, trying to deter us or to get us to vote for somebody. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. Yeah, that's what I was looking into this morning. Thank you. That bonnet really helps. I need to brush it, but it don't look bad. Thank you, Cecilia. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be looking into maybe a different, I don't know, that's something that I kind of have to do on my own, you know, but I do want to find a different version or maybe something that was more closer to God, because I just find it crazy that I didn't know this. And, you know, I feel like it's our responsibility to question these things. When you don't question these things, that makes you a sheep. That's how sheep become sheep. And that's how the blind are leading the blind. When you're not asking questions like, well, who wrote the King James Bible? How did it get turned into this Bible? Who was King James? Sometimes you just got to do the digging yourself. It's crazy. What was that? Yeah, there's like 12 missing books. And actually there's probably more than that because, you know, they think that we've only found, hold on one second. What percentage of the Dead Sea Scrolls do they believe that we've actually found? I think it was a small percentage. And listen, how do they know that we found like 80%? It says, according to current estimations, experts believe that around 80% of the Dead Sea Scrolls have been discovered, 80 to 90, with the majority of the findings coming from Cave 4, blah, 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 blah. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I believe there's probably a ton more out there. There's probably some that got destroyed. There's probably so many more writings that we just haven't found yet. Do y'all understand how much of the world has not been searched? A lot. There's places we can't even get to on Earth. So I just don't believe that. But whatever. You know, this is Google, once again, who was bought and paid for, part of a leftist organization. So, and they're the same ones that told us earlier that Adam and Eve were a fake story. Remember that? What did it say? Let me read you this, because this is wild. I was Googling some stuff this morning on Adam and Eve. I wanted to know where the Garden of Eden was. Ironically, it's in Iraq. And then I start asking questions about Adam and Eve. And Google said, explanation. The story of Adam and Eve is a creation of myth in the Bible and is not considered a scientific account of human origins. That's what Google says about the Bible. Crazy. Hold on one second. Let me read this. The Dead Sea Scrolls, also known as the Qumran Cave Scrolls, are a set of ancient Jewish manuscripts from the Second Temple period. They were discovered over a period of 10 years between 1946 and 1956. No. No. Yo, I'm reading about these manuscripts. If these manuscripts weren't discovered until the 18 and 1900s, then how the heck did King James? I am so confused. Then how did King James revise the damn manuscripts? This is telling me that the Christian Bible, the Codex Sinaiticus, was discovered in 1840s. King James revised the Bible in 1604. So what is going on? And I even looked up the Sea Scrolls, and it said that see the deception. Hold on one second. When was the first original Bible found? There we go. 4th century. Okay. Is that Sinaiticus? I don't know. It's the earliest manuscript of the Christian Bible, and it was found in the 4th century, compiled in the 4th century. I'm so confused. I'm getting aggravated. Does anybody have answers? No. Okay. Listen. King James lived in the 1600s. He revised the Bible in 1604. Google is telling me that these manuscripts that he revised it from were not even found till the 1800s. How is that possible? What am I missing? Let me go to the History Channel and see if they know. Because nobody else knows. Like, it doesn't even make sense. The timeline's not there. How did they find the damn manuscripts in the 1800s and the 1900s, but King James revised those manuscripts in the 1600s? How is that even possible? Unless he had a time machine. You know what I mean? He didn't use them. King James couldn't have. Then how did the Bible come to be? Where did he get the information for the King James Version Bible? I'm so confused. When was the first time Bible manuscripts were found? 1844. How is that possible? The oldest known biblical manuscripts included the silver Ketif scrolls, which date... No. Is that it? What biblical manuscripts did King James revise the Bible from? The King James Bible ain't even the Bible. The King James Version of the Bible was translated from a variety of manuscripts. So they just threw a bunch of crap together and called it the Bible. I'm so mad right now. I was right when I said they compiled like 5 or 6 things together. They did. It absolutely matters. It's the most important document on earth. On earth. And will forever be the most important document. So, now I'm just like, what in the world is going on? Because I thought that they found those sea scrolls way back when, honey. I thought that's how we even made it to... I'm even more confused than I've ever been. I thought that's how we made it to the churches and all of that. Yes, but the disciples are the disciples. So, no, he took stuff from Greek and Hebrew, and he just took stuff from all different kinds of religions and threw it into a book. And why was he in this? This is the most confusing thing I've ever looked at. Didn't Greeks believe in multiple gods? Weren't they pagans? Greek mythology. None of my devices are working. I'm getting so mad. Who has the Dead Sea Scrolls? They're in Jerusalem. The Shrine of the Book of Israel Museum located in Jerusalem. I wonder if it's going to get warm today. 72. I mean, the only reason that you would have to change the translation would be to manipulate. Why not just write it for what it is, what it says? You know what I mean? I bet you can't even find a real translation. It's gone. I mean, unless you damn learn Hebrew and fly to darn Jerusalem, I mean, I'm sure they probably have like some podcasts you can listen to that translate it properly or something. There's probably like, I don't know. Here we go again. See, right here it says the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered between 1947 and 1956 near the Dead Sea. So how in the heck would they translate it in 1604 if they didn't even have it yet? Call me crazy, I don't care. I don't care. I do believe in God. But I don't know if it's this Bible. And I know I believe in Jesus. But there's a lot of unexplained things. I don't know. And they say, oh, well, it's just prophecy. It's up for interpretation. No, it's the word that's going to happen. And I take it literally. And that's why it's important to me to actually have a Bible that wasn't propaganda. It's kind of crazy. This has been interesting. To say the least. I'm like having an existential crisis. Stuff be blowing my mind. It's like everything we know is fake. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. Oh, God. Oh, Lord. It's all a lie. So I don't know if it's going to be nice today or what. I mean, it's overcasted right now. It's starting to warm up. It says it's 62. Oh.
they check y'all when y'all go in? No, they don't check at all. That's what I'm saying. We don't have to make any big deal. It's gonna hide shit. You get arrested, what's that, sir? I didn't know.
Ew. They're walking into McDonald's. I don't think they need it. Y'all all weigh a combined of like 2,000 pounds together. People are so nasty. Ew. Out there breaking out faces and greasy ass hair, being loud. You see them fucking working. They probably recognize me. I have it happen so much. It's annoying. It really goes to show that everything I talk about is real. I talk about constantly how immature, passive aggressive, and stupid people are. And then people like that show up and prove my point. Anyways, so I guess the reason I was talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls was because, like, there's no way they found them all. I just don't believe that. And there's probably a lot more information out there from Jesus's disciples that we don't know about. For instance, God talks about dinosaurs in the Bible. He says that he created them on the 6th day and that they coexisted with humans. Creationists believe that fossil layers around the earth were formed by a flood. Right? So there's science to back up that these dinosaurs actually existed because we have bones, we have crustaceans, we have tons of fossils. But what doesn't make sense is evolution, dinosaurs, and how that plays into God. I don't know. I just feel like God would have left explanations. And I feel like the Bible has been manipulated so much that we don't really know the truth. That may be why there's so much that may be why there's so much confusion when it comes to God and evolution, why people don't understand it, because there's probably more information still out there that we don't even know about yet. Or that was covered up because they didn't want us to know the truth because they're politicians and not Christians. Okay? So, I don't know. I just know that I personally will not be reading the King James Bible anymore because it is not an actual interpretation of God's Word. It is multiple interpretations from God knows where. And the fact is the man that had the Bible revised, that rewrote, that paid to have it rewrote so that it could be spread to the masses, he was a horrible man. I know one thing's for sure. God would not want me reading something that was produced by somebody who was evil. And he says that in his word. So, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to be reading now. But it won't be out of the King James Version Bible because that's Satan. That's Satan. The Bibles are weapons. Thank you. That's my point exactly. That is what I'm trying to say right now. Thank you. They are. The way they were used as political tools. These kings and these people that were revising them, adding stuff, taking stuff out of them. The church has done it as well. That's not okay. That's not what God would want. God would not want us out here reading a Bible that was written by somebody or revised. It literally has his name on it. King James Version. What does God say? Have no other gods before me. His name even being on that Bible goes against the word of Christ. It goes against the word of Christ. So, I'm just saying that maybe think outside the box this weekend when you go to church. And if they're using King James Version, I don't know. I'm going to find a new Bible. We'll talk about this. We'll reconvene on this in a few weeks like I always do. But I'm serious. I know that God would not want me reading the word that was produced by somebody or even financed by somebody who lived the lifestyle of King James. That was not a holy man. He was an evil man with probably deep psychological issues of no fault of his own. But still and yet, that's not the way that God operates. That's not the way that God operates. And if you think it is, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. Because there's no way on this earth the king would want me out here reading something from a different king that lived that life. Absolutely not. That's evil. That's Satan. And I don't know what I'm going to do now about a Bible, but I'll figure it out. You know, I might have to fly to Jerusalem. I don't think I can do that. But you know what I mean? Like, seriously, it's sad. It's sad that we've been misled so much. And like, even the Bible, breaking it down, it's like, wow. Well, this is interesting. Maybe this is why everybody was so secretive in church and I couldn't ask questions, and I was condemned and punished as a child for asking the questions that I'm currently asking. It pisses people off. They don't want to, you know, but here's the thing. It has to be said because what I'm saying is correct. His name, King James' name, even being on that Bible, goes against the word of Christ. Look, God would not want us following the word of a man who lived like a psychopath. Plain and simple. Anything that comes after that is irrelevant. And this is why I was a problem child. I'm sorry. I'm not telling you not to believe in God. I'm just telling you to ask the serious questions about where stuff comes from and why we believe in certain stuff. I know that God is real, without a doubt. And I also know that King James Bible is not a good Bible. So I don't know where that leaves me, but I guess on a hunt for a closer relationship, you know, with the Lord and Savior. And you know, the crazy thing is I grew up with the King James Version. So that's where my morals and values and principles come from. All of this is coming from what I read out of King James Version. But I also don't operate like a normal human. So I don't know. I mean, I'm grateful for the way that I was raised in the church, but I have a lot of questions. And I think that maybe instead of putting myself back in a more dangerous situation in North Carolina, maybe I should look into my options at becoming a Florida resident and going to school here. And I can do it online, and I don't even have to be here. I can go anywhere. And, maybe the God, I've said this before, like, I just feel like God is calling me for something different. And North Carolina is a very dangerous place for me. Every time I go back there, I get more abused, and I just don't want to be put in a situation to continuously get abused. Every time I'm able to get out of an abusive situation, I thrive. Most people do. It's when they have to deal with their abuser or go back to their abuser, or their abuser won't let them go, that they, are re-traumatized, and they're stuck doing the same thing, the same cycle of abuse, the same, same cycle of abuse they're stuck in again. So I don't know. I know that there was 2 schools that were trying to get me in, but I was kind of nervous to jump into it because it's online. But, since the other college was going to pass me through for agricultural business, and they were going to go ahead and throw me into a 4-year major, if they feel like I'm okay to go for, a bachelor's, then I think I'll be fine at reading the Bible and learning about Christ on the internet. You know what I mean? Pastoral school, or whatever it's called. I think it's pastoral school. I can't say it, y'all. Anyways, I don't know. I definitely can't join the military, so that's not even an option. I can't find a job, and recently all this weird stuff has been happening. And then, what really, like, I thought seeing what I saw in the sky was magnificent. No, it was the epiphany that I had like almost 2 days later, where I realized how many non-believers there are walking amongst me, and why the world is truly evil. And then I'm like, maybe I should have already started pastoral school. Maybe I should have already started this, and then that dawns on me, And then it wasn't like an hour later this morning, I look at a video of a guy going through a grocery store, and he's like, do you know our Lord Savior Jesus Christ? And these people were saying, no, I'm a Satanist. And he went through a dozen people. Hey, do you believe in God? They were like, no. Hey, do you believe in God? Or he would say, hey, can you tell me something about Jesus Christ, or something like that? And everybody got angry. They got moody. They would like have a visceral reaction. No. Like, it was crazy. One woman even said, I'm a Satanist. And then finally, at the very end, after about 12 or 15 people, he walks up to some old man in a wheelchair, elderly, and he says, do you know Jesus Christ? And the guy says, of course I do. That's my best friend. It should have not taken 12 or 15 people for one person to acknowledge that Jesus Christ is King and our Savior. That's sad. That's why this world looks like that. That's exactly why this world looks like that. Satan runs this world. People have free will. Yeah. Yeah, that video was like, oh, there's non-believers everywhere. You know, and even describing what I saw, people still can't even comprehend. They can't even comprehend. But it's okay. I feel like, I'd be okay with, arguing amongst non-believers for the next 50 years. Maybe that was my personal purpose. But, I like to go against the grain so much. I'm telling you, I'm going to go to my grave being defiant. Why not be defiant for the Lord? Get all these non-believers to believe. I can go out there and battle them. You know what I mean? Like, it's really sad that people are so lost and they don't realize that the answer is Him. And when I really think about it, my whole life I've always knew that He was alive and like real. You know what I mean? I always knew that He was real. I always knew that He was watching me. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I think that being thrown into this evil world where people treat homeless people so poorly, it almost made me a non-believer because of the treatment that I faced from society. But I now realize that that's Satan. Anybody that would mistreat a homeless person or anyone for any reason, that's Satan. So I absolutely question the reality of God due to being put through the worst possible circumstances on earth in the past few years. I mean, there's truly not much I haven't experienced. A gunshot? I ain't got shot yet. But, weird shit be happening all the time, so Lord, I hope not, but I can't name too many things I ain't already been through. I'm about to go get some food, you guys. I am. I'm starving. Nice to see you, Cecilia. Congratulations. I am. I'm about 2 seconds from doing online school and telling North Carolina to go fuck themselves. And I'm so sorry, Lord. I need a cuss jar. Excuse me. We've been doing so good this morning. See, when I talk about the Lord, I can refrain. But then I get on these colleges and I turn into Ted Kaczynski. Like, they really make me mad. And it's not the college. It's thank you, Rich. It's been fun for me. I like to learn about stuff, and I get confused about a lot because I wasn't taught anything, and it doesn't make sense in my mind. You know what I mean? But yeah, the school, it's because I don't have a home address. They're giving me a hard time. They're trying to charge me like triple the tuition. So, the crazy thing is that here's the crazy thing about being homeless. If you don't have a physical address, you can't enroll in school. If you don't have a physical address, you can't get a job. If you don't have a physical address, you can't get a driver's license to get a job. People look at homeless people and they tell them to get a fucking job. But the system is built to prevent them from doing that. So, all I'm saying is homeless people have it 10 times worse than anyone could ever imagine, unless they have physically been in those shoes. A P.O. box does not count as a physical address when it comes to getting your driver's license, when it comes to getting a job, when it comes to enrolling in school. They won't accept it. And there's probably 10 other things that I personally haven't experienced yet that prevent you from succeeding in some way, trying to better your circumstances just because you don't have a physical address. That's what they don't tell you. It's absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that we should have special grants and programs specifically designed for our homeless. For school. For school. We should. Any person that wants to do better should be allowed to. Especially the homeless. They've been through enough. If they want to pick themselves up by them bootstraps and get an education, they should be allowed to do so. And I'm not saying it should be free. But they did it for illegal immigrants. So, maybe we should worry about our own citizens and teach them how to stand themselves up on their bootstraps before we just shout, get a fucking job, you bum. Maybe the reason they can't get a job is because they don't have enough education. Hello? That's the way of the world now. Everybody's saying, oh, you don't need an education, you don't need an education. Bullshit. Anybody that says that is dumb as a box of rocks. You absolutely need an education. You absolutely need an education. Some people out here make it without one. Yeah, they got lucky. They knew somebody. They fell into something. They were good at it. Whatever. That's not the case for everybody. People sitting over here, oh, you don't need an education. Bullshit. Everybody deserves to try if they want to. If they want to. They deserve the opportunity. This is the land of the free. That's what of this country. The land of the free. The free will to do whatever you want. If you want to go back to school, you should be able to do that. And anybody out here telling young people that they don't need an education, you are a horrible influence on the upcoming generation. I'm not saying you got to go get a damn bachelor's degree and whatever. But what I am saying is that a formal education is imperative to a person's success in adult life. And if you can further that, my son or daughter, if you can further that, you'll get a lot further in life and you won't go through anything that I've been through. Anybody discouraging a young person from getting an education is a piece of crap. Plain and simple. But anyways, I'm going to go. I need to figure out what I'm going to do today. I don't know what I'm going to do. They do Blade Runner. They absolutely do. And I've tried to explain this to people and they call me crazy. They say, no, it's not because of that. No, it is. It is. They absolutely refused to write me a coverhead letter for my school so that I could even register for my residency. I had to go to the Department of Social Services 3 or 4 times. Y'all went with me every time. And at the very last time that I went, it was so uncomfortable that I actually called the college so the college could talk to the Department of Social Services. And the college got aggravated with the treatment that I was receiving from social services. And the college said, just leave. Get out of there, you poor thing. The Department of Social Services did not want me signing up for school because I would qualify for more food stamps. I am homeless with next to no income. 15,000 job applications I've put in. The economy is toast. If you have a job, you better keep it. If you're looking for a job, you better get comfortable. 2025 is going to be a bumpy fucking ride. Financially, economically. Job market is trash. And it might take a damn century at this rate for it to pick up. It's crazy. It's crazy. But they gave me such a hard time on that cover letter. And that's when I realized that the government was enslaving me. They don't want me to try. They don't want me to get educated. They don't want me to stand on my own 2 feet. They don't. They don't. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I'm not saying they want to support me, because they don't want to do that either. They want me to be mentally ill. They want me to be down in the dumps. They want me to die from an overdose. They don't care. They want me to be a statistic. They want all of us to be a statistic. The more of us that are strung out on drugs with mental health problems, the more of us that don't see what's going on behind closed doors and what they're out here doing. The more of us that are mentally unstable, not doing well, the more of us that are not paying attention to what they're doing in government. I'm going to get off my phone now. It makes me so mad because, it makes me so mad. Because I know the game, but I can't put the game into words. But I'm getting there. I'm getting there. It's just crazy. They don't want to help you. Social services. I will say that the school that I have picked out, that I've enrolled in, they were phenomenal. They helped me with everything. It's a community college, and they were 10 out of 10. 10 stars out of 10. They were nice. They didn't judge me. They helped me with everything, and they were amazing. But it's simply going back to North Carolina that's problematic for me. I might go once. I might get all my shit. I might come out here and get a storage shed, change my PO and everything. My PO box. I don't want to even be in that state at all. That's not the life for me. That's not who I am. That's not the people that I want to be associated with. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not a good place. Everything there will lead me back to drugs and death. And I've already died a few times. So I just feel like at this rate, I only got a few cat lives left, and I ain't willing to put myself in that situation. I'm not, because the next time I die might be the final time I die, and if that were to happen, I would go to hell. So I don't want to be even playing this game. I don't even want to be there. I don't want to see anyone that I even used to know from there. That place repulses me. My life was ruined because of that place. Yeah, I know, that's what I was going to do, Margaret, but I can't be in North Carolina. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be getting sexually abused. And I refuse to continue to put myself back in the situation where bad stuff's going to happen to me. And it seems like the state of North Carolina is pretty much hit me with an ultimatum. And I can't do that. I can't put myself back in that situation just to go to school. I can't. Thank you, Margaret. It's where I feel safe, I don't know. It kind of sucks that I have to make a decision between sobriety and an education. Do I want to be sober and live, or do I want to risk my sobriety and go back into an abusive situation where I'm getting sexually abused some more just to try to survive for maybe 3 years while I knock out this bachelor's degree? And let me tell you something about narcissists. The behavior only gets worse. It never gets better. So if they've already physically attacked you, sexually attacked you, verbally attacked you, whatever, that behavior will only get worse the more free you become. That is what entices that behavior. Your freedom is a trigger for your abuser. Every time you make baby steps to better your life, better yourself, grow, become more stable, that will trigger that abuser into somehow trying to harm you, to get a reaction, to knock you off your feet, to send you back down to the bottom where you were when he met you. You have to stay away from your abuser. That is the number one rule. It's just like drugs and alcohol, people, places, and things. When we're talking about abusive people, abusive situations, you have got to get away and stay away. No contact, none. Not a text, not a phone call, none of that. People, places, and things. It is imperative to your health, just like it would be imperative to being in recovery and staying clean. People, places, and things. So North Carolina is a huge trigger for me because of the abuse, because of everything that I've been through, and I don't want to be anywhere near it because I don't want to be anywhere near it. I don't want to risk my life. I don't want to risk my life. Oh, it's fine. I have a place to stay. I pay a hefty truck payment for Betty, so I'm actually quite comfortable in here, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it, and I'm quite comfortable in here. But anyways, I'm going to get some food, y'all. We'll talk later. This has gotten really long. I love you guys. Bye.